Prologue: Death of Friend. Naruto watched in horror as the large projectile headed towards him with great speed. He knew he should move, but learning the two techniques, as well as copying the cool jutsus, had taken a lot out of him. So this is where the story of Naruto Uzumaki ends. The great nine-tailed fox dies here in this forest powerless. Naruto was ready to die, knowing he wouldn't be missed if any of the village will celebrate his death. But he was wrong. His journey wasn't to be finished. The death god wanted a different soul, one very precious to the blonde shinobi wannabe. Naruto was even more shocked when the shuriken didn't sever his head from the body, rather his body was engulfed in a warm hug. Irika-sensei, why? The words escaped his mouth, barely more than a whisper. Why could let my cough, little brother die, can I? Irika tried to reply merrily, even as blood dripped from his mouth onto Naruto. His eyes were already darkening. He heard the boy call him and hug him tighter, but it seemed so far away. Naruto felt something warm dropping on his hair, the hands around his body loosen. The body of his beloved sensei, the only person to call him family, stiffened in his arms. He could hear the cackle of the bastard just ahead. He was proud. He was proud to rip away Irika from Naruto. Kill! A deep voice echoed from deep within Naruto's soul, a voice filled with hate and malice. Kill! R.I.P. this bastard to pieces. The words swirled around Naruto's soul like a mantra. Mizuki stiffened. He could feel the blood lust again. For 12 years, he had nightmares about the day when he lost his elder brother. This was the same bloodlust. This was his bloodlust. QB, he gasped. His hands grasping the hilts of two kunais, he lunged at the kneeling blonde, but his attack only touched wind. The monster dodged his attack as if he was nothing. You killed Irika-sensei. I will kill you. Naruto roared from the tree branch, just above Mizuki's head, who jumped back and entered a stance as two kunais held in a cross formation guarding his chest. Bring it on, demon. I will send you where I sent that demon-loving fool in hell. Mizuki yelled, his voice full of bravado. He didn't feel himself. The cold blue eyes of his opponent showed no emotions as the hands moved to form a cross seal. The hatred-full voice had died down in Naruto's head, filling him with an eerily calm mind. His exhaustion was gone, as if it was never there. His hand slipped into the cross like hand seal he had mastered to impress his teacher. Blue chakra swirled around his body as he called out, Taju Kage Bunshin Jutsu. Mizuki felt a cold chill run through his spine as his surroundings were filled with hundreds of the orange-clad blonde. And in unison, they attacked him. Third Hokage of Hidden Leaf, Sarutobi Hiruzen, raced across the forest, his squad of Umbu on his tail. As they closed on the area, they could hear only weeping of a broken boy. Sarutobi let out a sigh. He could guess what his pseudo-grandson might be feeling. As he entered the clearing, he saw a broken, mutilated pincushion-like body of former Leaf Chunin Mizuki and a blood-stained blonde head, crying over the dead body of his teacher. A pang of sorrow passed through his own heart. As leader of the ninja village, he had seen his fair share of deaths, but finding your precious person only to lose him would render deep marks over a boy's heart. He just wished Naruto would recover from this ordeal. Naruto felt a familiar hand lie on his shoulder. It was my fault, old man. It was my fault Irika-sensei died. Mizuki was right. I am a monster who must be put down. Naruto spoke, tears cascading down his chins as the rain started. Hiruzen did the only thing he could thought of. He wrapped Naruto in a warm hug as his body flickered away from the place, knowing his Umbu will do the rest. Protector's pride. Summary: Naruto Uzumaki fought to save his precious people from harm, but he took things seriously very late. This is what happens when the death of one of his precious persons instigate the change in him earlier. This will be an O, but will follow canon pretty closely. Pairings undecided as of yet. I don't own the series. This story may have some similarities with other stories with same theme, but occurrence of that is purely coincidental. Listen is so far away by Avenged. While reading this chapter, it will set the mood perfectly. Chapter 1: The Birth of a Shinobi. The night was a time when Naruto Uzumaki always let his mask drop. For most of the days, it was in his apartment, where no one else would look for him. But today, he had no intention to go home. 3 days had passed, but he still couldn't get over it. Everywhere he looked, it reminded him of Irika Sensei. His forehead was covered by the forehead protector bearing leaf emblem. Hokage had deemed him eligible for the Genin rank for his performance in real combat situation. In any other day, he would yelled in joy, but this was no other day. The guilt of losing a person who called him little brother, who saw him Naruto Uzumaki the clown of Konoha, not the nine-tailed monster, weighed over his soul. He stood in front of a large stone kunai. Almost half of the large monument was filled with names. These names were to remind the future who the real heroes were. Naruto couldn't bring himself to the funeral for his beloved sensei. Hokage told him only 5 people were there, including him, all of them who worked with him. He had gone to see his big brother's grave and was glad to see he was resting just beside his parents' graves. At least you get to be with your family now, Irika Sensei, Naruto thought solemnly. He knelt down and placed the bouquet of white carnations he had bought from a shop under his hinge. He slowly touched the headstone, tracing the lines written about the fallen warrior. A warrior, a friend, and a teacher, may the will of fire burn brightly to show you your heaven. Naruto read the inscription under his breath. And for the first time in his life, Naruto, Uzumaki jailer of the mighty nine-tailed fox, prayed to God not for his own sake, but for his deceased friend. And thus, with a melancholy mood, he stood in front of a stone obelisk that would have a different visitor for all day. I cannot let it happen anymore. I will not let happen anymore. I will save all of them who I hold close with my own life. I will do anything, cross any limit to protect my friends. I promise this to you, Irika-san. Tears buried deep within for years once again started falling as he heard footsteps behind him. Sarutobi Hiruzen was cursing his predecessor and strangely successor to hell and back for leaving him in this mess. He failed to protect Minato's legacy, and the person who did it in his stead lied in eternal peace. But his face soon broke into a small smile as he heard the end part of Naruto's promise. With a fond shake of his head, the wizened leader of the Hidden Leaf thought of the same unyielding determination of another blonde-haired, blue-eyed person. He walked to stand beside the teen who was now looking him in the eye. You know, Naruto, Kuin, the goal you just set is even harder than your dream. It will be a long uphill battle. Hiruzen chuckled as he laid his hand on the head of his pseudo-grandson. Naruto looked at him, tears now stopped eyes filled with more determination than ever. You don't understand, Gramps. Everywhere I see it reminds me of Irika-ne. I don't care what you say, but it was my fault. I was too weak, but I won't be weak. Naruto yelled this time, his flashing anger bubbling up from within him. But he stopped when he saw the proud smile that adorned Hokage's face. I see, maybe I can help you there. But are you completely serious about your goal? Naruto nodded at the question, and another smile lit up on Hokage's face, taking some of the lines with it to never return. He let out a laugh, the kind of one that no one has seen him laughing for over a decade. After a while, he asked Naruto again, and how do you propose to do so? Full well prepared for the guilty look that passed onto the teen's face, the old leader, titled Professor, saw a smaller scroll with 6 jutsus held before him. His experienced, I recognized them to be from the Forbidden Scroll. These ones, he spoke to himself. It has been many years since any of these were used. Then, focusing again on the squirming blonde standing before him, Sarutobi could help but snicker. While I admit these are strong and good techniques to have, all of them are far beyond your level, he told the boy kindly. However, I could give you the help you require. Naruto's face once again lit up in joy, but he kept his mouth shut as he could see that Hiruzen wasn't finished yet. Now come with me, and I will see what I can give to you. The Hokage tightened his hold, and with a puff of smoke, both of them vanished from there. Hokage Tower. Inside Hokage's office, the two travelers had different reactions while Sarutobi simply went sit at his chair. Naruto sunk in the first chair he got. Smiling at the scene before him, the old leader of Leaf felt himself lighter than he felt in days. The simple fact that his pseudo-grandson was going to overcome the grief gave him a strange feel of contentment. So Naruto-kun, what kind of scroll would you like? The question broke Naruto out of the funk body flicker caused. Was it a scene from a week ago the blonde would have asked for a ninjutsu scroll, but a lot has changed in 1 week. Naruto had matured more in one night than last 3 years together. He now was trying to figure out his mistakes rather than simply pretend they don't exist. Irika-sensei always told me that I have more body strength than average, but my style is horrendous, so I guess I should first work on that area. What do you think, old man? Naruto answered, his eyes scrunched in concentration, but his customary smile absent. He has almost stopped smiling. I guess some things can never be healed. The thoughts ran through the old Kage's mind as he channeled chakra to a specific portion of the table, with a puff of scroll appeared there. Here, Naruto-kun, this scroll has detailed information about a very special taijutsu style. Take it as your graduation present. Naruto picked up the scroll. It looked old, very old, and was a bit damaged at places. He was pondering on what to do next when Sarutobi spoke again. You know, Naruto-kun, like you, I have also seen my sensei die. Do you know how I became Hokage? Just as Hiruzen expected, the boy's curiosity picked up at once. Not letting his face betray any of the pain he still felt about the incident, Sarutobi began recounting the incident that still managed to fill his nights with nightmares. Several blasts could be hard from afar as Tobirama-sensei led us across the forest. We were 7 in number, counting sensei. My team and I were originally from Shodame Squad, but after sensei passed away, Tobirama-sensei took us in. We had gone to aid a border encampment for what we heard was Kumo's border forces, but the information was faulty. We had ran across the entire elite Kinjin squad. 2 Chunins and 4 Genins were no match for the elite of Kumo. Sensei tried to lead us back to Konoha, all the while trying to rescue as many of the wounded as he could. That was the fiercest fight I had ever seen Sensei get into. Flashback. Water style, water vortex, jutsu, cried Tobirama Senju, the second Hokage of Leaf Village. The condensed water stream hit 2 of Kumo's warriors, while rest managed to dodge it. The 2 that got hit died instantly. Their entire ribcage was crushed from the water pressure. Still, this was bad. Even with the loss of 7, the Kinjin forces still had 20 shinobi strong while he was getting tired. Tobirama jumped from the tree branch he was in as 12 lightning tendril hit the tree before wrapping it in a lightning net. He started to form hand seals in a fast pace as a cleaving sword strike forced him to dodge, but still continuing the hand seals. As he finished, he slammed his hand on the ground, water style, hidden water death trap. For a moment, nothing visual happened, and 3 of the attacking forces got cocky. They jumped on the ground, lunging at the visibly tired opponent, their large cleaver-like blade wrapped in blue thunder. But as soon as they came within 10 feet of Tobirama, water from the air condensed around him, wrapping them in a cocoon of water, and the greatest water user in history watched in grim satisfaction as the attackers choked to death right before his eyes. Their hands clawing their throat, trying desperately to breathe, as slowly but surely they fell to their deaths. Sensei, we are ready to move. The yell from his female student Koharu allowed him to create a shadow clone and quickly move away. The trap would ensure that the rest of 10 shinobis don't follow them, but the trap would be able to help when Kinkaku and Ginkaku enter the fray. They ran for 5 more hours until they had to drop down from the trees as a powerful lightning blast turned the tree they were about land into cinders. Tobirama cursed inwardly as he understood who caused the attack. The fiercest tag team of Kumovikure had joined the hunt. Turning towards his students, he announced, "We need a decoy if we are to make it out of this forest alive." Silence ruled the forest as every one of them thinking deeply about the situation when Hiruzen spoke out. "I will do it. I'm the strongest of the 6, and Danzo can take care of them for me." Tobirama's Senju brother, Tahashirama Senju, never been prouder in his life. He had long since decided who the decoy would be, but he wanted to see who would be the newest Hokage of Leaf. "I will be the decoy," he spoke in a clear voice. I entrust my village to you, Sixaru. I name you the Sandame Hokage of Leaf. Remember when tree leaves dance, one shall find flames. The fire's shadow will illuminate the village, and once again the tree leaves shall bud new. Flashback in Protector's Pride. Summary: Naruto Uzumaki fought to save his precious people from harm, but he took things seriously very late. This is what happens when the death of one of his precious persons instigate the change in him earlier. This will be an O, but will follow canon pretty closely, pairings undecided as of yet. I don't own the series. This story may have some similarities with other stories with same theme, but occurrence of that is purely coincidental. Blowing in the wind. Once more the calm of night had wrapped the peaceful village of Leaf. As the world slept, the stars kept witness of the endless vigil of two troubled souls, one marked by darkness yet fighting for light, and another born with unending light, yet slowly consumed by darkness. Two ends of opposite spectrums, yet destined to collide. Inside his family's training ground, Sasuke Uchiha let out a grunt of frustration, his body glistening with the sweat, his long black locks covering his obsidian black eyes. He had given his everything. He had no friends, he had only acquaintances. He had no hobby, he only had a mission. He had no dreams, he only had an ambition. It was his goal in life, it was the light that drove me, the single wound that would never grant him peace. He had given his every free moment in trying to attain the level his opponent had set him, and yet he failed time and again. No, his mind rebelled. I cannot fail. I will kill him. I will bring peace to my parents' souls. And once again he stood up, his hands slowly but surely forming the required hand signs. His chakra started gathering in his mouth. Just a bit more, come on, his mind kept telling him. Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. 3 fireballs in the shape and size of baseball issued from his mouth, and he sank into his knees. Why? He yelled in the silent sky. Even after trying so hard, I can never reach him. What more do I have to give? 2 days later, he will be assigned to Jounin Sensei and grant him a chance to grow beyond his limit. He hated it absolutely being obligated to someone didn't sit well with him, but he would gladly do it if it meant gaining strength. Page break. There was another boy still practicing this late into the night. His blonde hair shone in the starlight. He had no clothes on despite being only a preteen. His body lacked the baby fat. It was lithe and strong. Standing up from a meditative pose, he was sitting in he made cross-shaped hand seal. With the cry of shadow clone jutsu, quickly there were 7 more doppelgangers of him. The 6 of them lined up against the whisker-cheeked boy, and, as if following a silent command of some sort, all of them dropped into his new taijutsu stance. Hands open and in a cross-guard formation while the knees were slightly bent. Naruto closed his eyes, his emotions forcibly pushed aside as the scroll told him to. His mind brought the words of the scroll to the forefront. To master this style, one needs to be able to let himself flow. Be one with it. Don't force your body, but gently guide it to the destination. The clones charged as 1-2 of them coming in the front while the rest stayed back. Naruto simply bent his body in an arch, his hands shot downwards to balance his body as his left leg lashed out in a precise and powerful kick. One of clones stepped aside while the other got hit in the chest. Naruto simply pulled his legs back and performed a roll to gain some distance, or so he tried. The clones had expected the move and prepared for it. Shit, he cursed in his mind as 7 shurikens missed him barely. He tried to move into a fence, but soon the 3 clones forced him in a back foot again. If this was any other time, Naruto wouldn't have bothered dodging. He would have simply charged ahead, but he figured out this totally seemed to be cheating when his clones would disappear with a hit. He was caught off guard as a chakra-laced palm thrust hit him in the stomach. A grunt of pain escaped him as a return blow destroyed the offending clone. Naruto pressed on dodging or diverting the attacks of his clones while he slowly started to destroy them one by one. 15 minutes later, when he finished them, all his body had numerous bruises and his face had a frown. My diversion fist attack is nowhere near ready. I only have 2 days till team assignments. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. He once again slipped into that stance and slowly but swiftly started practicing the moves. Tsunami Fist style was the main taijutsu style of once famous Uzumaki clan. A master of this style could easily fight a master of gentle fist toe-to-toe. But Naruto didn't know this. All he knew or cared about was this style would make him strong enough to protect all those he holds close to his heart. Old Man Hokage, Konohamaru, and the Ichiraku family. And that was all the motivation he needed. Page break. Hokage's office. Sarutobi Hiruzen mentally cursed the death god for umpteenth time as he pondered over the latest mess he had in his hand. With the death of both Irika and Mizuki, the current graduating class had no one who could pair them up. Now he could set them as he pleased, but he knew very well that these reports were not always correct. So he decided to something that had never been done before and landed himself into the silly quarreling between his best soldiers. The two Jounin senseis who were causing this headache were Kurenai Yuhi, the Genjutsu specialist of the village, and Hatake Kakashi. The silly thing was they were fighting like children over a certain student. Sasuke is a genius of his own accord, and you already have in his team Kakashi. Why do you need Uzumaki as well? Countered Kurenai. She was determined to get the boy who harbored the Kyuubi. Kakashi, while famous for laid-back attitude, was not ready to give an inch this time, as he instantly countered, "What shall you teach him?" His massive chakra load would render him incapable of using Genjutsu. He is going through a tough phase, and I can help him best there. I can mold him to be a shinobi worth pride. Kurenai scoffed at the retort and decided to play it underhanded. Just like you dealt with your phase, I am sure. But her comment got the reverse reaction. She had hoped for the lone visible that was till now scanning an orange book turned into cold ice. Uzumaki Naruto is child born from fire. Whatever I did with my life doesn't concern here, as he already proved himself stronger than me. Hiruzen had enough. Their squabble was creating a migraine faster than you could say shit. Will you two shut up? He roared, his patience worn thin. Kakashi, I am assigning Naruto to you, but I don't need to tell you what he means to Leaf, do I? I won't let you down, Hokage-sama. Kakashi replied with a bow. No one, but the Hokage, was aware what teaching Naruto truly meant to him. Page break. Konoha Academy. Naruto stood outside the gate that leads to the Ninja Academy. Memories flooded his mind. He wanted to run away from the building. It reminded him too much of his mistakes. His feet almost started dragging him to the opposite side, but he forcefully reminded him this is not what Irika would have wanted for him. A small smile flickered in his face as he remembered the countless times he was brought here by the scarred Chunin. Once again fully determined, he entered the class, but his mood soured at once when one of the graduates decided to remind him how he had passed. Forcing him not to lash out at the fool, he brushed past him and sat at the far back of the class. But during this simple turn of events, something strange occurred. Sasuke Uchiha, the prodigy of Uchiha clan and self-claimed avenger, sat in his seat, drowning in his own sea of red, until the loudmouth idiot of Keita broke him out of his darkness. As he glanced at the side for a moment, his black eyes met a pool of cerulean blue. It was there, the same kind of pain he experiences every day, a deep loneliness, a pit of darkness. Naruto sat in the farthest corner of the room, his emotions threatening to overwhelm him once more. He discarded his orange jacket, hoping that slight cold air may bring the comfort he sought. But it didn't. He was drowning in his own sorrow once more. No, I won't break. I will fulfill my promise to old man. He forced himself back to the reality. Barely 2 minutes later, Hokage entered their class accompanied by 9 more shinobi in vests, symbolizing that they are the ones who would lead the Genins. Naruto kept his attention on Sandaime as he read the Genin squads one by one. Finally, when he began the 7th squad, Naruto had his turn. He was assigned with Sasuke and Ino. Naruto felt like screaming. This was perhaps the worst team. He could have. Not only he had Sasuke in his team, also his greatest fangirl. For a moment, he thought of loudly complaining, but sucked it up. He was man enough to face the life, even when it dealt him a shitty hand. The flicker of emotions didn't miss the eye of the Cyclopean Jounin assigned to lead Team 7. Interesting, suppressing emotions like a professional. You really have a good poker face, Naruto-kun. Asuma had all-boys squad, giving Kurenai the Hyuga heiress, Inazuka heir, and one with the most potential for Genjutsu. All things considered, Kakashi thought this generation can easily beat the past generations. He let an expressionless Naruto, a brooding Sasuke, and a gloating Ino. After reaching his own special interviewing place, Kakashi let out a manic grin flash underneath his mask. Now, it's time to scare the hell out of the kids. He turned around to face them leaning against the railings of the roof. By studying the expressions of their faces, Kakashi could tell all three of them were curious and bit guarded two more so than the third one. Good, he liked it that way. Naruto had his jacket on, but the zippers off. He was curious of what his new sensei was about. So far, he seemed mysterious, but had an aura much like both Iruka and Hokage. To him, it meant he was trustworthy. He silently followed the man's command and raced to the roof. He could hear Sasuke's feet behind him. Currently, he sat in the middle of the stone slab, while the blonde girl and Uchiha sat in the sides. All the three pairs of eyes fixed on the figure in front of them, reading an orange book. Okay, now that we all are here, shall we begin? How about you introduce yourself, dreams? Hobbies, likes, dislikes, that kind of stuff. Kakashi's voice sent shivers down the spines of all three teens. For a moment, silence existed until Ino raised her hand. Here. Sensei, can you go first? Kakashi chuckled. He was expecting a response. He stated in a monotonic voice, "My name is Hatake Kakashi. I am a jounin from this village. I have many hobbies. Goals, didn't really think about them. My likes and dislikes don't really concern you." He forcefully stopped himself from breaking out laughing as he saw the expression disbelief flicker among his cute students. Applying his no-nonsense tone, Kakashi barked out, "All right, Whisker Cheeks, you first." Naruto didn't show any outward emotion at being reminded of his tenant, but the quenching of jaw muscles told Kakashi that he hated the beast. "Good start, kid. You keep all of us safe," he thought as he saw the golden-haired boy begin his introduction. Naruto felt his temper flare for being reminded of his burden, but he recognized the teasing tone hidden in it and relaxed as he started introducing himself. "I am Naruto Uzumaki. The thing I like is people who acknowledge me and ramen. The thing I hate is traitors and liars. My current hobby is training, and I want to be strong enough to protect all those who I love." Kakashi simply directed his lone eye to Naruto's left on the lone girl of the four. Ino seemed nervous before she began speaking. "My name is Ino Yamenka. My hobby is gardening. The one I like is..." Her cheeks turned pink as she shot a glance at the raven-haired boy. "I dislike forehead girl and lazy asses. I dream of one day surpassing my dad." Kakashi gave a non-committal shrug before addressing the last person left from their squad. Sasuke didn't bother, looking up, his hands folded in front of his face. "My name is Sasuke, Uchiha Sasuke. I have no likes and many dislikes. I don't have any dreams, only a goal that I will make reality. I want to kill a certain person." As Sasuke finished his introduction, three different thoughts raged through the others while Kakashi was sad, but well aware that this was expected. Ino was stunned at how cool her crush was, but Naruto had the most notable emotion of them all. "So same yet so different. Is it how I would have felt if Mizuki had escaped?" The honest reply was yes, and Naruto felt a shiver of hope, a hope for a place to belong, a kind of kinship. A sound of chuckling tore him out of him, musing as he saw his teacher guffawing off. Kakashi finally managed to get his chuckling under control as he looked at the insulted faces of his subordinates. Waving his hands to apologize, he continued, "I am sorry, I just couldn't control my laughter when I imagine what your expressions will be once I tell you that you are not Genin yet." "What do you mean by that?" The responding yell pleased Kakashi. He had finally managed to break the boy out of the shell he himself created. Naruto was furious. "Why the hell are we not Genins yet? We passed and all that." Kakashi simply brushed his outburst aside. "Mama, did you really thought we would be sending you out in the field with such meaningless skills? That was simply to weed out the worthless ones. The Jounin leaders get the final say in selecting the Genins. Tomorrow you shall have the final test. Be at the training ground at 15 by 5 a.m. And one suggestion, don't eat or you shall puke. And with it he vanished in a swirl of leaves. Naruto, Sasuke, and Ino sat their heads, swimming with questions. Silently one by one, they stood up. Naruto, planning to revise his taijutsu moves once more. Sasuke planning to check on the clan library for some more jutsus, and Ino was simply too overwhelmed to think. Page break. The dawn found Naruto standing on the training ground 15. He had reached the place earliest. He was simply too nervous to sleep. More, he also had stopped by Irika's grave to tell him about his life. It had become something of a habit for him. He saw the faint light of sun rays slowly breaking through the veil of darkness. Naruto looked at the sun rise for a while before sitting down, leaning against one of the poles. He didn't have to wait long as his two teammates entered the clearing simultaneously. Hi, Naruto. Hello, Sasuke-kun. Ino greeted her teammates, all the while trying to keep her nervous down. Naruto replied enthusiastically, but Sasuke simply replied with a grunt, and thus began their waiting. Nearly 3 hours later, when Kakashi entered the clearing, only find 3 sets of killer intents fixed at him. Ino's forehead had a large tick mark. Sasuke looked simply murderous, while Naruto's eyes seemed cold as ice, yet Kakashi seemed unfazed. He simply waved them to gather around, while feeding them a cock and bull excuse of his late being. Once the squad had calmed down enough that they can follow commands, Kakashi pulled out a pair of bells and an alarm clock. You have to get these bells from me. Whoever is without bell shall be sent back. You have till noon. And one final advice. Come at me with the intention to kill if you want to succeed. He waited to gauge the reactions of his students or would-be students. The steely glint in onyx black eyes of Sasuke told Kakashi at least one of them understands the meaning, but he was disappointed at the horrified looks of the other two. But won't you be in danger then? Naruto croaked out. Good thought, Kakashi. Time to rile the beast. Outwardly he chuckled and replied, None of you possess any real ability to harm me, especially you, Mr. Deadlast. He smiled under his mask as he saw the murderous rage flicker through Naruto's, but suppressed immediately. And now begin, Kakashi yelled. All 3 of the Genins dashed into the foliage, but all separately. Kakashi started taking notes mentally. At least they understand the requirement to hide, but they don't yet understand the theme of teamwork. In the top branch of a big tree, directly behind Kakashi, Naruto hid himself the best he could, the dried leaves of red and orange perfectly blending with the blonde shinobi's orange jacket. Okay, all I know about this guy is he is a jounin of this village, meaning he is one of the elites. But then he is bound to go easy on us. I guess I better test the level is willing to use against us and plan accordingly. Sasuke hid amongst the smaller bushes and his hand clasped tightly on a kunai, waiting for at least one of his teammates to show up and engage the guy so he may gain some intel. Ino also hid in the lower bushes, but unlike the male, she had no plans whatsoever. Their waiting came to an end as a kunai was launched from the tree on Kakashi's blind side. Kakashi waited, mildly impressed at the judgment these children were showing. Then he heard the sound of a kunai rushing through air got him to alert, but his amazement grew when he heard Naruto call out, Kage, kunai, jutsu. Kakashi quickly performed a seal-less body replacement as the log got skewered by approximately 15 kunai. He didn't even have the chance to survey the area, as he had to duck as powerful kick went through the place where his head. 3 Narutos attacked him in taijutsu at once. Kakashi dodged the numerous strikes 3 Narutos sent at him with ease. His practice, I could see the power and agility behind the attacks, but also the holes the blonde's defense presented. Back flipping to gain some distance between him and the attackers, Kakashi stood in the center of what seemed to be a classic half-circle formation. Kakashi was impressed at the use of shadow clones. To think that the boy learned the technique less than a month ago, this progress was amazing to say the least. The 3 Narutos quickly dropped into the offensive stance, and as one charged at the silver-haired jounin. Kakashi didn't bother dropping into a stance as he announced, Lesson 1 Taijutsu. He barely moved his head to the left as a punch flew from there, leaving an overextended Naruto, who was taken out by a powerful punch in the chest. The left one attacked with a low kick aiming to misbalance the opponent, while the white one lashed out with an open palm strike at the abdomen. Kakashi deftly blocked the low kick with his right hand as he bent his body to dodge the attack. Another kick from him took out the left one, leaving only one Naruto. Naruto cursed loudly as his open palm strike was dodged, but he had to concentrate as Kakashi decided to go offensive. Naruto barely dodged the fist that headed at his head, but he groaned as a powerful kick from the opposite feet knocked him a few feet away. And with that, they engaged in a taijutsu bout. Naruto was doing all he could to block or dodge the attacks the Jounin sent at his way. Naruto knew Kakashi was holding back a lot, but that didn't help him much. He created a couple of hundred shadow clones as he retreated back. To his amazement, Kakashi took out the clones in a matter of minutes by simply diverting his attacks to hit others. He would just block or in case dodge the most powerful attacks Naruto sent at him. Once again, taking refuge in a tree, Naruto tried to regain his breath. His hunger was making it harder for him to fight with a cool head. He tried to remember the lessons both Iruka-sensei and Old Man Hokage taught him, for he was sure none of them was beating that guy alone. Daring a look at the Jounin, he saw Sasuke getting his ass handed over by Kakashi, but what surprised him was when a furious Sasuke let out a big ball of fire from his mouth. Naruto was amazed at the strength the black-haired boy was showing, but he had to stifle his laughter when Kakashi dragged the boy underground up to his neck. Naruto knew he had to find Ino no cause Kakashi was about to go after her, and he had finally a plan that just might work. Quickly creating a clone, he ordered it to shape-shift into Ino as he himself dashed out to find her. Kakashi was whistling a Johnny tune as he watched Ino try and maneuver her way to the still-trapped Sasuke. He waited until she was close to clearing before dropping in front of her. Ino, shocked, hastened back and tried drop into the academy stance. Kakashi's visible brow furrowed as a smile made its way under the mask. He had originally planned to taste the girl in Jinjutsu, but instead he rushed in, and one high kick later, Ino exploded into smoke. At the same time, Naruto, Sasuke, and Ino sat back against a tree deep into the forest. "Look here, dope. I don't need you to hold me back. I touched it last time. I will get it surely this time." Naruto felt his frustration building. He gripped Sasuke by the collar, ignoring the cry from the blonde girl. He pulled his face close to him. "Look here, asshole, the guy is playing with us. The only way we win is if we cooperate." Sasuke didn't want to admit, but at the moment he felt a bit of respect for the so-called dead last. To him, Naruto has shown skills comparable to his own. He nodded grudgingly, and together the planning began. Kakashi was wondering whether he should search for the Genins when he heard the yell of Kakashi-sensei from near the river. Naruto stood there, his hands already in the cross seal, as he yelled, "Shadow, clone jutsu." 10 clones formed beside him as Naruto dashed at him. Once again, the two was engaged in a taijutsu bout with every single clone dispelled. 2 more was taking the place. And slowly but surely, Kakashi found himself begin pushed back with the chakra and muscle restraining seals placed on him. He was tiring already. Naruto knew he had to end it now. The plan was going perfectly till now. He sighed in relief as he saw the 7 shurikens flying out of the forest. They wrapped themselves around Kakashi, who seemed shocked. His shock grew more when he heard the feminine shout of mind-body replacement jutsu. Naruto let out a proud smile as he sank into his knees, the chakra drain catching up to him. Sasuke gave a brief smile as he saw Naruto's plan work successfully. He left his hiding place and dashed at the bound and incapacitated Kakashi, only to find it explode in smoke. "The fuck?" he cursed aloud as the ringing of the alarm clock started just then. 5 minutes later, Team 7 found themselves under the piercing stare of the masked Jounin. Kakashi kept his stern mask on while inside, was congratulating himself. There was only one more test left. "So who are going to take the bells?" Ino seemed to be waiting the question as she began replying instantly. Sasuke-kun was going to keep a bell, while Naruto and I would have cut the other bell in half and keep a piece each. Kakashi was definitely impressed as he let out a "I smile," the tense atmosphere dispersing with his smile. "Well done, guys, you pass. From now on, you are Team 7. Remember, those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their team for rules are even worse than scum." He let out another "I smile" as the two blondes high-fived, and the stoic Uchiha had a smile gracing his lips. "Obito, Minato-sensei, watch over us, this team, carry your legacy. Protector's pride." Summary: Naruto Uzumaki fought to save his precious people from harm, but he took things seriously very late. This is what happens when the death of one of his precious persons instigate the change in him earlier. This will be an O, but will follow canon pretty closely, pairings undecided as of yet. I don't own the series. This story may have some similarities with other stories with same theme, but occurrence of that is purely coincidental. I have a tiger. 1 week had passed since the formation of Team 7, but they had done nothing but team training. More often than not, the three of them teamed up against Kakashi, trying out various setups and positions for the field. For Naruto, this week had been enlightening, to say the least. According to his new sensei, the reason he could not pass the conventional exam was never a fault on his part. He simply had too much chakra to be tamed at such a young age. He currently was trying to keep a number of leaves attached all over his body, and he was slowly succeeding. Every try exceeded the time limit of the previous one. Sasuke was doing 200 push-ups a little to the side. His body was glistening with sweat. Ino was sitting beside him, trying to read from scroll, while every 5 seconds her eyes will draw to the Uchiha. "Yo!" A voice from behind Naruto announced their teacher's arrival. And soon the three of them stood in attention, facing their lazy and pervert sensei that had his nose buried in the orange book he always carried. Without even raising his head to meet his students, Kakashi continued in the bored monotone he always used. "All right, team, the week we dedicated to training only is finished today, and I'm impressed with the progress you have made. From now on, we will start doing missions in the morning till afternoon, and then we shall train the battle simulations we have been doing. This will be our routine for every day, except the weekends. We shall work on individual improvements then." The three Genins yelled their affirmative at the same time and followed their leader. Kakashi whistled a merry tune as he saw his students curse silently. Whatever Naruto had expected a mission to be, it never was cleaning the house of some lazy ass. He sincerely hoped that this kind of mission was just accident. But the following days proved to him that these so-called D-ranked missions were nothing but menial labors. Still, he didn't complain, rather let all his frustrations out during the battle simulations and spars that concluded the day. Right now, he was facing Sasuke in the spar. Sasuke had his traditional Uchiha fighting style, while Naruto took the tsunami fist stance. As soon as Kakashi signaled them for begin, Naruto moved and his left fist lashed out in a powerful punch that Sasuke dodged, simply moving his head back out of Naruto's range. But his eyes widened as he realized his mistake. A kick hit him straight in the abdomen. Sasuke quickly jumped back to gain some distance, but he didn't get the window of time he was hoping for, as Naruto was quickly on him, but this time every single attack of his was blocked. Sasuke stifled the cry of pain that was trying to find its way out of his throat. The blonde sure packed a lot of power behind his attacks, but he was slow, at least slower than he was, and he knew he had to capitulate on that point. He blocked the incoming attacks until one attack provided the opening he needed. Sasuke smiled as he saw Naruto do a double take as soon as he lost his balance. But the whisker-cheeked boy never managed to regain his momentum as sharp jabs from the last Uchiha forced him back onto defensive. Naruto was blocking most of the hits, still a few were constantly getting in. Sasuke's accuracy and agility was greater than his own, but still he could take this kind of punishment for a whole hour. Sasuke seemed to be tiring as well. A formed in his lips as Naruto pushed chakra on his feet and lashed out with a high kick at the raven-haired boy. Sasuke saw the kick coming and charged in with a low punch as well. With a quick duck, the kick went missing while the punch headed true the blonde's stomach, until a hand hit the fist from sideways, deflecting the punch. Both the boys jumped back. They had been going on for a while now, both panting and bruised. Page break. Kakashi watched the boys fight it out, while feeling proud both of them were quite strong for their age. Sasuke was always a genius, but in this short time Naruto had proven to him how much hatred can blind someone. He felt himself blessed to have a team that can grow to rival the sages only if he manages to teach them that much. Naruto was the perfect frontline warrior. He had chakra capacity of a monster, and he had stamina and a lot of endurance, everything that a frontline fighter should have. And Kakashi knew exactly how to mold him, but for that he will need to learn the boy's elemental affinity. While learning manipulate the elements was considered high-level tech, one could simply learn a jutsu of that element at least twice faster than any average shinobi. Sasuke was just what a true Uchiha should be. He had above-average chakra capacity and control, but above all he had skills rarely seen. A perfect assassin, smooth and fast Sasuke was the key on which Team 7's success depended. While Kakashi did take care of the boys under his care, the very thought of the girl under his charge slipped his mind. He would take special care of the boys, teaching one of them personally, while letting a shadow clone teach the other about strategy and sorts, while Ino would sit and ogle the last Uchiha shamelessly. Page break. While she would never admit it out aloud, she had been quite disenchanted with the new reality of her crush. There was a dark and cold void in Sasuke that she didn't feel sure she could fill. The time in Team 7 had been strange for her. She had been closer to Sasuke more than she had been in Academy, but she had seen a new side of the blonde boy as well. Naruto was not the joker they had assumed. He was almost as strong as Sasuke, and he possessed a depth that intrigued her. Team 7 operated like a well-oiled machine. Even though it was only D ranks, the Genins proved themselves willing to work along with others. Sometimes small scuffles would break out between the two boys, but both of them would hold on till the customary sparring session to vent their frustrations. This is Flower Girl here. I see the target over. This is Maelstrom here. I am moving in for apprehending the target. A third voice replied them. This is Avenger, and I am ready. Begin Operation Hellcat. Crouching on top of the shed, overlooking a certain feline codename, Maelstrom smirked. A single hand seal, later one more shadow clone, appeared beside him. The original raised his hand, giving a silent countdown to 3. As his countdown ended, one of the blondes transformed into a net, while the other one threw it at the unsuspecting cat. Or so was the plan. The cat dodged the net as if he was born for that job. But the feline brain failed to comprehend the cunning mind of Shinobi as the net, lying behind him, transformed back and got hold of his neck. 2 more figures appeared beside the other blonde boy, standing victorious. That was a passable work dope. The monotonic voice of the lone black-haired member pissed the hell out of Naruto. Next time you do better, he replied through clenched teeth. Sasuke-kun can do it faster than you can blink, idiot. Ino took her chance to support Sasuke. There won't be any next time. The lazy voice of their instructor came as he leaned against the opposing building, his orange book held in front of him. Kakashi Hatake was an enigma. He appeared lazy and pervert. He was lazy and a pervert, but beneath it lay a bloodthirsty, battle-hardened warrior whose skills few could match. He might seem uncaring, but every day he would check upon his charges, watching them as the silent sentinel he was. What do you mean, sensei? Ino chirped. She was relieved to be rid of this cat. Her clothes had patches of mud on its souvenir from their search. While Sasuke remained silent, Naruto let out a big sigh of relief. Thank God, I really hate this cat. His face bore various scratches the cat gave them before he had locked it up in a cage Sasuke supplied. Kakashi, I smiled at his team. He was happy that slowly but surely Naruto was healing from the emotional trauma of watching Iruka die. He knew of the boy's habit of regularly visiting the grave and spending hours there, but at least Naruto was no longer drowning in self-pity, unlike himself. He replied, I think it's time you guys take it to the next level. Kakashi smiled under his mask as he saw his team cheer. As a whole, even the stoic Uchiha smile. I hope my decision doesn't come back to bite me in the ass, he prayed silently. The journey to the Hokage mansion was a swift one. They entered the mission room, and Naruto went ahead to hand over the now snarling cat to the client, a big fat lady. That was another job well done by Squad 7, commented Sarutobi Hiruzen, once titled the god of shinobi, smiling slightly as he smoked his pipe. You bet, old man, we are the best. Naruto announced boisterously. It seemed as if the mere sight of the old Kage triggered a lot of happiness in the boy. Chuckling slightly at being called old while the others looked horrified, Hiruzen spoke. Well, that remains to be seen, but for now, what about another D rank? This time it was Hitaki Kakashi who strode forward. Excuse me, Hokage-sama, but I deem my team ready for a C rank. The slight arched brow signaled Kakashi to explain, who nodded and continued. My team has shown correct aptitude for teamwork and has been trained in mock battle situations, but unless they get the taste of real world, I fear their progress might get hindered. Sarutobi could see the reason behind the man's argument. His sources also told him that Team 7 was currently the best Genin team from this year, but it was too early for a fresh green team to take on C ranks. He knew that this rank was where most of the accidents occurred, as the client often lied about the importance of the mission, and he had to pay with the lost future generation. Page break. Naruto had been enjoying the day more than almost every other day in his life. Being an orphan and a demon brat, he had never crossed the boundary of Leaf until this day. They were to guard a caravan to close to the border towns of Fire Country in process, crossing the entire of the country. But he was a bit disappointed at the very little change of scenery. He walked along the left side of the cargo while Ino sat on top of the cart, her eyes closed and her consciousness trapped in a bird scouting the area. Suddenly her eyes snapped open. Jumping down, she yelled. A group of bandits at 2-kilometer distance, nearly 4 foot o'clock. Kakashi nodded his head from his position at the head of the spear. Any more details? He asked calmly, his mind already working on a plan to get his charges acquainted with the harsh reality that is the life of a shinobi. Ino felt all the eyes on her. She was desperately trying to remember the details, but this was her first attempt on something non-human, and that made her confused. She replied haltingly, I'm not really sure, but I think there were some archers in the pack. I think about 5 to 6. Kakashi knew the information was not enough, but it was all he had at this point. He signaled the merchant to stop and called the Genins close. Sasuke, I will leave the archers to you. Be as stealthy as you can be. Naruto, you will encounter the melee forces, and Ino, use your technique to pit as many of them you can against themselves. I will step in if necessary. The team as one yelled their affirmative, and Sasuke took to the trees, aiming to reach the bandits before his team. This will be his first test. This will be where he will prove that the Uchiha name still lives. Naruto had made one shadow clone to take Sasuke's place. His face hard, set no more the boy with a smile could be seen. His visage was of one who had faced death before. Ino trembled. She was scared, but she refused to give in. Page break. Nearly 15 minutes later, the cargo had to stop because of the log that blocked the path. Inside, his masked Kakashi smirked. The action was starting. And sure enough, 15 men, all in some wooden armor and katana, charged at them. Naruto muttered his favorite jutsu name as he dashed ahead to intercept the bandits. 20 shadow clones formed at his side. With the kunai drawn, they leapt into battle. The bandits paused for a moment as they saw the kid, making replicas of him. This suddenly seemed a lot complicated than before, but their hesitation didn't help them, as their foremost warriors were attacked by 3 blondes at the same time. They didn't really understood what hit them, as 3 orange blurs hit them before they were knocked out. Naruto lashed out at the person who he figured out to be the leader, his 2 clones right beside him. Unlike his earlier opponents, this guy was not shocked. He slashed his katana downward at the approaching shinobi, only to find a metal knife blocking the attack. Scowling hard, the man tried to press harder, only to feel incredible pain. Glancing downwards, he saw the grinning face of the 2 doppelgangers as they lodged one blade, each in the bandit's body. Naruto froze as he saw his victim vomit blood before crumbling down. The scene was so familiar, he could almost replace his sensei's face with the bandits. The clones that were fighting different opponents froze as well before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Kakashi was feeling proud the way his team was handling itself. His clone that was tailing Sasuke had dispelled to alert him of the job's success. But he felt like cursing aloud as he saw Naruto sink into his knees, haunted by his ghosts. "Come on, Naruto, don't give in," Kakashi screamed in his mind. A fireball nearly the size of a medium-sized rock hit the bandits, scattering them as Naruto watched on blankly. He saw Sasuke join the fight, holding the remaining bandits off. He knew he should join the fight, help Sasuke, but his body felt like molten lead. Until a soft hand lay up on his shoulder, the warmth broke him out of his trance. Ino stood behind him, her hand laid on his shoulder. Her presence gave him comfort, gave him power. And once more the clearing was filled with clones. "Sasuke, get away!" Naruto yelled as his clones each threw a handful of shurikens before calling out. Shadow, shuriken, jutsu. A deadly rain of steel fell upon the bandits, leaving only a trail of dead bodies as the aftermath. Kakashi nodded in grim satisfaction. Two of his team had drawn their first blood today. While Naruto initially took it very hard, he managed to cope, and in Kakashi's book, results were everything. 2 days later, they were returning to the village. The rest of the mission was a piece of cake, but the training was not. Kakashi had once more upped the ante as he had the team master tree, climbing in a day before setting them up on different jutsus. Naruto, as it turned out, was a wind element, making him the perfect companion for the last Uchiha. The battle had proved to Son of White Fang how weak the female in his team was, but unfortunately Ino's chakra reserves were too small to do anything other than her family jutsu or healing jutsus, both of which Kakashi had no experience in. So for now, he settled with training her stamina and accuracy in close combat. Currently, he sat on the top of a tree watching his team train and interacting with each other in great interest and amusement. While Ino did loosen her crush, she would still vehemently support the Uchiha matter against the third member of the team. Much like how my team used to be, Kakashi mused silently. Suddenly, a shrill cry of bird was heard. Instincts honed by ages in battle told Kakashi that this was a herald of bad news. Sure enough, a bald hawk, the messenger bird used by Konoha, swept down, wings spread. The bird landed on his shoulder, outstretching its leg. Kakashi removed the letter tied to the bird's feet, and the eagle once again soared up in the air. Page break. Sasuke had stopped training the moment the eagle arrived. He had never seen such a majestic bird before. The way it flew told him that the bird knew his strength, and he had pledged it to Konoha, much like Sasuke's family did. While he didn't show it to his team, the killing had affected him as well. The splattered red on the grasses was so like his nightmare, just like the day when that man had painted his world in red. Kakashi burned the message with a small katan jutsu, his lone visible eye hard like steel. "We are moving to Wave," he called out. "We have only half a day's time to reach there, so there will not be any breaks in between." And with that, Team 7 set out in a journey that would shape the team's fate. Protector's pride. Summary: Naruto Uzumaki fought to save his precious people from harm, but he took things seriously very late. This is what happens when the death of one of his precious persons instigate the change in him earlier. This will be an O, but will follow canon pretty closely. Pairings undecided as of yet. I don't own the series. This story may have some similarities with other stories with same theme, but occurrence of that is purely coincidental. Awaking the demon. Mind is the strongest weapon a human possess. It is the greatest mystery. It alone holds the key of making or breaking a person. Yamankas were the masters of this mind. Their abilities allowed them to venture deep into the unknown and seek out the truth. Ino was no exception. If there was anything that attracted her even more than Sasuke, it was the psychological lessons her father used to give her as a child. But even then, she never really had to apply it in real life until today. Ino still felt ashamed at her performance in the real fight. She completely froze as the bandits charged at them, and then Naruto dashed in. The boy's enthusiasm for mundane matters changed into the prowess of a shinobi, until he froze And that part confused Ino while she was feeling nauseous at the mere sight of killings. It was evident Naruto was not then. Why did he froze like that? Currently, they were sitting in a wide circle with a small fire burning in the center. Despite Kakashi's attempts, they couldn't reach the border of wave country, where they were to provide assistance to the team already there. Ino sat leaning against a rock, letting the cold wind of night soothe her aches while again and again her eyes would wander off to the whisker-cheeked teen. She was curious and was determined to know the truth. With a light groan, Ino stood up and slowly made way to Naruto, the firelight casting ethereal glow to him. "Hey, Naruto, mind if I sit here?" She spoke softly. "Sure, if you want," the answer came. For a few minutes, the two teens sat side by side, in absolute silence, broken only by the chirpings of crickets. "You know, I never said thank you." Naruto's voice was barely more than a whisper. Ino wanted to open her mouth, but she froze as an unknown side of Naruto Uzumaki made his appearance, a side more vulnerable than anything. When the bandit vomited blood, it was as if watching Irika-sensei die again, and I froze. I promised that I would protect my precious persons, yet today I was this close of failing. Naruto had the ability to bear a lot, an astounding amount, but in the end, he was a human, and the silent companionship Ino was providing him broke the dam. Ino sat there shocked, listening and knowing Naruto in a way no one had ever known before. She always thought that the boy smiled too much, but now she realized it was simply either smile or cry, and Naruto chose to smile. To have your very existence looked down upon was something Ino could not even imagine, as she was her daddy's princess. "You know, Naruto, you really are the strongest of our age group." Ino spoke finally after a long pause. Her little bubble of the perfect world lay around her in tatters. They might not have been friends for long, but still her heart felt a pang of sympathy for the blonde, a need and urge to lessen his pain. And just like that, a friendship was born. Page break. After dinner, ended, Kakashi called his team to gather around. "Okay, Naruto, you will be taking the first watch. After 2 hours, awaken Sasuke, and I will take the last watch. And Naruto, take this scroll. This is the next training exercise for you. Work on this." Naruto opened the scroll once he had comfortably positioned himself on the top of a tree while his clones were scattered around the land in disguise. One benefit of harboring the mighty fox demon was having perfect night vision. While Naruto had expected the scroll to contain some form of exercise, he didn't expect his sensei to leave a new jutsu for him to learn. Earlier today, Kakashi had tested them for their dominant element chakra. Sasuke and Ino both had fire, but surprisingly Naruto found out he was wind-natured, the toughest and rarest of the lot. Now that he thought about it, he could see himself as either water or wind, both of them unpredictable and constantly changing, just like he himself was. The scroll held instruction to perform a D-rank wind jutsu. 2 hours had passed when Naruto had sank into his knees, sweat pouring off his body. The rock just in front of him had several kunais embedded in it. All in varying depth, only one kunai had cut clean through the rock, thus completing the training assignment. He sat there for a few minutes, letting his breath come into control. Sasuke was awakened by a hand knocking on his temple. Squinting his eyes to adjust in the dark, Sasuke let out a growl as he spotted Naruto sitting there grinning at him. "Wake up, sleepyhead, it's your time." Naruto sang in a sing-song voice. The expression on Sasuke's face was so damn worth it. Chuckling after the leaving Uchiha, for a few moments Naruto leaned back on the sleeping bag. For 12 years, he had almost no friends, acquaintances, maybe, but not friends, never friends. But now he was no longer alone. Ino, Sasuke, hell, even Kakashi-sensei was kind of like a friend to him. In the darkness, Naruto whispered, "Thank you, Irika-sensei, for letting me have this. I promise I will never let this go." Dawn soon followed by what seemed to be an unnaturally short night. Naruto didn't mind, though. He had worse. It was actually kind of funny listening to Ino complaining all the way. They came to the border even before sun was completely up. Kakashi negotiated with the man waiting there with the boat. The Genins stayed back. While Naruto couldn't pinpoint it, this wet land was unnerving him. Soon, they boarded the boat, while Kakashi briefed them on the situation. As it turned out, the client had lied about the mission perimeters, and the Genin team was ambushed by some enemy ninja. While they didn't abandon the mission, Team 7 had been called as backup, and if everything went as planned, then they would be meeting them on the opposite bank. Kakashi didn't tell the entire truth. The team that had ambushed was Miss Demon Brothers, both of whom were a part of Zabuza's Genin team. And Kakashi dreaded to think what would happen if they really crossed paths with the demon of the Bloody Mist. He sincerely hoped that they reach in time. As it turned out, that god was in favor that day. As Kakashi found Kurenai and her team waiting for them on shore, they had an old man with them who looked like he would piss any time. Kurenai was the only one who looked top-shape. Kiba had a bandage around his ribcage. Hinata had one in her left calf. Even Sakura's dress was pretty dirty and torn. Upon spotting the Team 7, Kurenai let out a breath she didn't even know she was holding. This mission had gone south. Almost immediately her team took it. Her first test of her team in real-life fight had almost ended in disaster. Only luckily Kiba was not poisoned. Her eyes found a lone visible eye of Kakashi as the message was delivered. She looked around to see the two teams goofing off well, with the exception of Sasuke. She once turned back to Kakashi. "I never thought I would be happy to see a pervert like you, Kakashi, but I really am glad that you are here." Kakashi's smile gave her an eye smile before adorning the persona that made him the legend he is today. Page break. Naruto didn't see himself as coward or the twitchy sort of people, but something about the atmosphere was causing him to be in high alert. Tazuna, as the client was called, stumbled. Beside him, Naruto's hand gripped the kunai tightly. He could swear he had seen the bush rumble for an instant. Deciding to be rather safe than sorry, he threw the blade he drew from his holster, and a white rabbit came out of the bush looking scared. Ino froze for a moment when she saw Naruto throwing the blade, but let out a sigh of relief when the rabbit came out only to squeak as Kakashi yelled for his team to get down. The whooshing sound of a massive blade thrown across the space chilled her blood. She was no coward, but she was the weak link of the team. Mentally cursing herself for not taking this seriously enough, Ino got on her feet. Her eyes widened at the sight that was waiting for her. Standing on the flat surface of a massive cleaver-like sword was muscle-bound giant of a man, his face covered by bandages. The man's eyes were locked on the eye of her sensei. It was the man who broke silence. First, the voice seemed to be coming from everywhere with deep chilling effect in it. While looks like the prey had gathered some strong defenders, Kakashi Hitaki, the man who copied over 1,000 jutsus, it will be a fight worth remembering. The man grinned through his bandages. Kakashi's face betrayed no emotions as he replied in an even tone. "Momochi Zabuza, the demon of the Bloody Mist, I didn't expect to face you here. I will say this only once. Stand down, or this will not end well for you." The man now identified Zabuza merely chuckled before he responded with a heavy bit of killer intent. The Genins felt like suffocating. Naruto was shaking his kunai, felt heavy in his hand. Ino and Sasuke both were in worse condition. Fortunately, Kakashi noticed this and flared his own chakra to dampen the oppressive feeling. "Don't worry, I won't let any of you get hurt," he shouted before dropping into a fighting stance. But that split second was all it took as mist covered the entire area. The Genins formed the Manji formation with the old man trembling in the center, all of them trying to see in the mist and failing. An echoing voice came out of the mist. 8 points to choose: form, kidneys, heart, liver, lungs, spine, cervical vein, jugular vein, brain. Which one I should go after? A moment's silence before a cloud of smoke revealed Zabuza in the center of the formation, his sword already reaching towards Tazuna, but suddenly strong tug removed Tazuna from the place. Ducking under the overhead, Kakashi pushed his kunai straight into the chest of Zabuza, only for him to turn to water. A slashing move came from behind Kakashi, cut the crouching shinobi in half, only for it to turn into water as well. Zabuza looked shocked at the display, but his eyes widened more as he felt the cold edge of a blade press on the jugular of his neck. Kakashi bit out a curse, as this turned out to be a clone as well. He dodged the sword strike that came from behind, dropping onto the water. But his plan backfired as the water turned heavy. Water prison jutsu complete, Zabuza announced. His one hand was put into the outer surface of the water, and with the other, he summoned up 6 clones before ordering them to charge. A brief look of understanding passed on the faces of Naruto and Sasuke each. Pushing the chakra in his feet, Sasuke jumped high before releasing the fire style. Phoenix Fire Jutsu. Several fireballs scattered in a wide arc until a unified shout of wind style, Gale Palm, was heard. More than 10 Naruto clones pushed the wind chakra from their hands, feeding the small fireballs until they were 4 times in both size and speed. They crashed onto the water clones, creating a lot of steam. Naruto and Sasuke seemed pleased. But oddly, Zabuza was unfazed, so the boys know a trick or two. But you're only kids trying to be a ninja. Until your name appears in my bingo book, you are trash. Then put my name in your book, prick. I am Naruto Uzumaki, the future Hokage of Hidden Leaf. Naruto yelled before charging off at him. 2 clones appeared beside him in an instant. The 3 rushed on, gaining momentum, then suddenly they stopped. The clones launched 1 kunai each while the original yelled, Kage, kunai, jutsu. The 2 knives become 200, but the man blocked them all by his huge sword, until he heard the blonde shout, wind-style Gale Palm, once more. Knowing that it's impossible to knock these kunais off target, he simply put his sword in front of him. The massive blade easily covering him, but 5 kunais sank deep into the sword's surface before vanishing with a poof. The force of the attack was enough for Zabuza to take a step back, allowing Kakashi to form a hand seal. Zabuza's eyes widened in horror as he saw Kakashi whisper, release, and medium amount of electricity took his place, instantly electrocuting the sword user. But it was not finished yet, as another shout of water style, water dragon jutsu, came from behind, and a huge dragon made of water slammed into Zabuza. Zabuza felt the agony as his several bones broke from the pressure of the water. His bandage was stained red from his blood, and he knew he was done for. How? Even without using your Sharingan, you triumph over me, Zabuza asked in a pained whisper. But his words reached the ears of the Genins. For 2 of them, it held no meaning, but for the 3rd, this was a revelation. Sasuke was shocked. How does an outsider possess what was only unique to the Uchiha blood, only to his blood? But before he could say anything or Kakashi move in for the kill, several Senbon flew out from the tree, sinking deep into the flesh of Zabuza, ending his labored attempts to stand. A new figure stood atop a tree, branch a sea green dress hiding his body, while an odd-looking mask at his face. Thank you, Hataki-san. I have been tracking him for a few days, but he was too strong for me. Thanks to you, I could kill him. I hope you will not object if I take his body with me. Kakashi's lone eye locked onto that of the masked man before he slowly nodded. He had already checked the body for vital signs and found none. As soon as the masked ninja vanished, 4 more presents revealed formed the mist. Kurenai and her team stood revealed, all looking impressed. Kurenai stepped forward before addressing Kakashi. So a hunter ninja took away your kill, huh, Kakashi? But that was a sound plan. It took me several moments to pinpoint the chakra difference between you and the clone, though. I was ready to enter the fray anytime. My invisibility jinjutsu would have made me able to close in on him. Kakashi replied with only an eye smile, and together teams 7 and 8 began their journey to the client's home. Protector's pride. Summary: Naruto Uzumaki fought to save his precious people from harm, but he took things seriously very late. This is what happens when the death of one of his precious persons instigate the change in him earlier. This will be an O, but will follow canon pretty closely. Pairings undecided as of yet. I don't own the series. This story may have some similarities with other stories with same theme, but occurrence of that is purely coincidental. A dream long forgotten. Naruto was shocked to see the Wave Village. Poverty, hunger, and death. It was like a hell upon earth. He lived alone, he suffered alone, but even he didn't see this much poverty. The entire country was dying, and he would be damned before he allowed that to happen. Inching closer to the client, he whispered, "What happened here?" Tazuna was eager to reach the safety of his home. While he was confident about the Leaf Ninja he had with himself, he was still scared. He almost didn't notice when the blond boy asked him something. Only when the boy nudged him, he broke out of the stupor. "What happened here?" the boy asked, but this time with a hint of irritation in his tone. Tazuna tried to smile, but what appeared was barely a shadow of one. "Gata happened. He took over our village like a cancer, and now we are dying. My family, we refuse to give in, and so we are hunted." Naruto was touched. Even though the man stunk of country liquor, he was a warrior fighting a losing battle without giving in. And he would always respect someone like that. Within a few minutes, the two teams arrived at their destination. Tazuna knocked the door as Naruto took the building and its surroundings in. It could have been a beautiful place had it not been for the sad aura hanging around. Tsunami, a beautiful young woman, opened the door. Although small, the house had a nice homely feel to it. "Welcome to my home," Tazuna said. "This is my daughter Tsunami, and Tsunami, these are the shinobi leaf sent to help in our task. Without them, I probably wouldn't be here now." Naruto could help but blush as the woman turned her reverent gaze towards them. He was used to hatred and scorn, but never to the admiration. Kiba seemed to enjoy the attention pretty well, his eyes taking over the curves of Tsunami's well-developed body. Naruto could not block the reflexive smile that came upon his face. Kiba was always the same hot-blooded horny male. Their moment of happiness ended. A new presence entered the room, a boy a bit younger than him. "Oh, there's my grandson, Inari. Inari, come here. These men have come to help us finish our bridge." Tazuna called out heartily, but that enthusiasm was not returned as the boy looked at Leaf Ninjas with barely veiled contempt. Run back to your precious little world. You think you could be the hero, then wake up there are no heroes," he yelled before running back upstairs. That outburst set in motion a long chain reaction, which began with both Naruto and Kiba flaring out while the others rounding up on their hosts. This revealed a story that was as gruesome as it was tragic. As soon as the story ended, Naruto stormed out of the room, his mind a jumble. This story had made him sick and angry. To see your idol killed like that, he would have torn the very shit into pieces. It made him angry at the boy, made him angry at the people who tolerated the bastard defiling their hero. He punched into the trunk of a nearby tree. The tree shook once before stopping down, but Naruto's frustration was not gone. "I will protect this country. No one should suffer like this." His mind kept telling him, and blows after blows rained upon the tree until cracked the tree toppled back. Naruto stood there panting as a gentle hand rested upon his shoulder. Kakashi could very well guess what was going through his student's mind, but he knew Naruto must deal with it himself first. "Sensei, old man always told me a shinobi should protect his village and his people above all, but then why didn't we stop this asshole Gato from ruining this country?" Kakashi always knew of the three. Naruto was always the moral one, but this question was something that would forever destroy his perceived notion of good and evil. "Tell me, what do you think about politics?" His voice low. Naruto was surprised at the question his sensei asked. "I think it's a waste of time and energy." Kakashi's mind flashed to the secrets he had discovered throughout his life. His voice grew somber as ghosts of past crowded around him. "This world is run by politics, power, and money. If you have any of these, you're nearly untouchable. It is true Konoha could have stopped Gata any time, but then Gata had money and we stayed back. We could not come to Wave unless invited, as other villages would see that as intrusion and aggressive takeover." His lone eye steeled as it glared deep into the twin blue pools. "The world of shinobi is created by blood. All of us have our hands stained with it. Like it or not, in the end, all of us are weapons created only to destroy." Naruto stood speechless. It was like a veil had been lifted from his eyes, exposing him to the truth. For a moment, silence lingered before Naruto let out a snort. "Bullshit, we shinobis are not weapons to be used. We are human beings first. And if this world doesn't accept it, then I will change this world. This is my promise." Kakashi gave an encouraging nod to the blonde before returning to house, leaving his young student to ponder alone. The next dawn showed 6 genins standing in front of their leaders. Kurenai was the first to begin speaking. "While Zabuza is down for the count, doesn't mean our trouble is over. As long as Gato is alive, more Nuke Ninja will come after Tazuna. So for the next few days, we're going to find as much information we can get about Gato and train you. Kakashi's loan I still fixed in the orange book in his hand spoke. So from today, we will be working separately while Kiba, Hinata, and Ino with Kurenai will scout the area. The rest will be guarding Tazuna with me. After Sun said we will meet again. Now dismissed. The Genins all returned to the house, packing their rations for the day. Naruto's mind still jumble of emotions. He hardly felt fear, but the idea of facing likes of Zabuza scared him. He felt himself trembling so slightly when he remembered the grace the monster yielded his sword. Once again, a warm touch on his body shook him out of his stupor. Surprised, he saw Ino laughing. Gee, don't make a habit now, Naruto. Anyway, I came to say best of luck. I wish it had been you or Sasuke-kun with me, rather than that dog breath. Hey, dog breath is not so bad once you get to know her. Plus, I bet you will learn a lot with Kurenai-sensei, while I am stuck with a pervert and a drunk sucks to be me now. Naruto chuckled back. He could never thank God enough for giving him this team that really sincerely cared. The bridge Tazuna was building was by every sense a behemoth. Even Kakashi had to stop his curse as he saw this. It was no wonder that this country didn't have money. Almost all their resources were pulled into it. Tazuna's smile behind them, their reaction, was always a good source to fuel his pride and his hope. He went ahead watching at the gathering workers, but his good mood vanished as soon as his eyes took in the number of workers. Shit, he cursed aloud. 6 more left this way. The bridge will never be finished. Fuck you, Gato, and your group of whores. Naruto was stunned at the size of the bridge. It was just unbelievable that something this big can be even built by someone like Tazuna, but his attention was snapped back as he heard the bridge builder curse profanities at a high rate. Glancing back at his team mates, he had to stifle a laugh as he saw the brooding Uchiha being pestered by Sakura-chan. While he still liked the pink-haired beauty, his desperation had lessened somewhat of lately, maybe because now he had friends. Anyway, he went to stand beside his sensei before whispering, "That old man needs some more workers. Can I use my clones to assist?" Kakashi had expected the request from his blonde student and knew he must educate the boy in the harsh reality. Shaking his head in negative, he whispered back, "Conserve your chakra for now. Let the fog be cleared, then do whatever you want." Kakashi was all aware that after Zabuza, the next shinobi they might have to face will be S-ranked, and while he himself was a borderline S-ranked ninja, the Genins will be slaughtered. And he would be damned before he allowed that to happen. Rounding up the 3 Genins now left in his charge, Kakashi closed his book with a sigh. This job was going to take his full attention. All right, today we will learn an absolutely must skill if one intends to fight in a watery field like this one. He spoke in a monotone before dropping down from the bridge, only to stand upon the surface of water. This requires a high degree of chakra control and precision, and is at least 10 times harder than tree walking. Sakura gulped nervously. She had aced the tree climbing, but Kurenai-sensei told that was because her reserves were too small. She slowly channeled chakra in the bottom of her feet before dropping down, the chakra layer preventing her from sinking. Sakura let out a sigh. At least Sasuke-kun will see how good she is. 2 more identical splash indicated that both the boys had joined them. Naruto was determined to succeed. This was not simply about gaining power now. A whole country's hope depended on their success, and he would never let that falter. He could feel his feet sinking, gritting his teeth. He channeled more of his chakra in his feet. For a couple of minutes, he stood still, but as he tried to walk, the chakra faltered. Again, he tried, only to meet with failure. Again and again, each time getting a bit closer to the target, until in his 6th try he succeeded. Sasuke had it easier than Naruto. After the tree climbing exercise, the water walking was a lot easy for him. Or it was until Kakashi ordered them to spar while water walking. Sasuke faced against Naruto, his mind still concentrating on the water walking. He soon realized it was a mistake as a solid punch knocked the breath out of his body. Naruto had summoned 10 clones, all of them water walking. Sasuke braced himself as twin kicks pushed him back. He could not concentrate enough on the fight to successfully use his fighting style, and Naruto capitulated on that point. Some minutes passed. Sasuke was still in the back foot, trying to block the attacks while straining his eyes. The attack seemed to be getting slower. He dodged an incoming high kick while destroying the clone with a strong punch. Naruto bit back a curse as he blocked the spinning kick with his forearm. He quickly jumped back, creating a dozen clones. This fight was going on his favor until Sasuke's eyes changed. The Uchiha since then could block almost all the attacks, plus this water walking was hindering his style a lot. The blonde shinobi gathered the wind chakra in his palm, and together the 13 voices called out, "Wind style, Gale Palm." Sasuke was not ready for the super fast wind stream heading his way. He could see the path quite clearly, which surprised, but before he could think some more, the wind hit him, knocking him out cold. Groaning in pain as the light hit his eyes, Sasuke had to control his urge to shout in frustration. It had been long since he had to endure the screeching nonsense of his fangirl. Noticing that Sasuke had woken up, Sakura stopped her lecture. "Are you okay, Sasuke-kun?" she asked in her sweetest tone. "HN," the stoic Uchiha replied, his eyes searching for the masked teacher of his. Kakashi had his book closed, a frown marred his lone eye. "Sasuke, channel chakra to your eyes." Naruto was rubbing his head where Sakura hit him for harming Sasuke when he heard the command. His curious nature picking up, Naruto turned to face Sasuke, only to see his eyes had once again changed into that weird red thing. Sasuke didn't understand the order at first, but did as he was told. Then there was a weird stinging sensation in his eyes for a moment before the world became much clearer to him. "Sharingan," Sasuke whispered aloud. The pride of Uchiha clan had finally manifested in his eyes. "This is my first step towards my ultimate goal. Wait for me, Itachi. This time you will lie slaughtered as I will laugh." A weird grin appeared at his face. Naruto was confused. Wasn't this Sharingan thing supposed to be Kakashi's trump card? "What is this Sharingan?" he asked, feeling a bit foolish, half expecting to be lectured by Sakura-chan, but it was Sasuke who commented. "Sharingan is the pride of Uchiha clan. This is what made us elites. Like that Hyuga girl, this is our bloodline limit, though I don't know how Sensei has it." Ignoring the barb, Kakashi ordered them to return to their practice. He totally hates Sharingan, Naruto decided, because since Sasuke had got this, eyes defeating him had been nigh impossible. At least the eyes cannot distinguish between his shadow clones and original. But still, most of his taijutsu was countered by him. Only with his wind attack did he manage to balance the scale. All in all, in a very bad mood, Naruto left the bridge. He was pissed, and woe to those who would finally trigger the outburst. The dinner in Tezuna's house was a merry affair. The teams enjoyed the awakening of Leaf's prized bloodline. Then the discussion took a graver theme as Kurenai took charge. This country is basically governed by thugs of Gato. They have 6 outposts here, all with at least 20 persons in each, but I have no idea where Gato is. Then we shall surely destroy them. Naruto spoke. Then you will die. All of you, Gato will crush you. You want to be hero, but know this, there are no heroes. Better go back to your safe worlds. What do you know about pain? Inari shouted, his face flushed with tears. For a moment the room had pin-drop silence until a soft chuckle broke it. Ino was shocked when the kid shouted like that, but she literally felt stunned when she heard the feral chuckling coming from Naruto. It started soft, then grew until it was a full-blown laughter, but with a fierce edge in it. Ino knew accusing Naruto having an easy life was really saying the desert to be green, but she wasn't prepared to see this side of her friend. And frankly, it unnerved her. "You think I had an easy life, brat? You live here in your comfortable room, you have a loving mother to feed you, and you think you have seen it all. I lived on the streets, I ate from the dustbin, I was hated, and I am still hated. You think I don't know pain. But you know what, kid, I am not weak like you, and I will show you heroes exist." Naruto spoke, his voice low, but still everyone could hear every single word of it. It was a voice unlike his own. It lacked the warmth that defined the blonde, replaced with venom. Naruto could feel his blood pumping in his veins, his rage trying to burn the world. Rising up from his seat, Naruto slammed open the door before going out in the darkness. He needed to get rid of his fury, and nothing worked better than sweating it out. Massive amounts of blue chakra gathered around him as his fingers slipped into their familiar cross-shaped seal. A whisper later, the clearing ahead was full with identical blondes. Naruto cracked his knuckles before the horde attacked him. What followed was a true battle royal, but with only one spectator as the silent figure of the Hyuga heiress watched her crush blow off steam. With Naruto stifled a pain-filled scream as a chakra lace kick hit him square in the jaw, lifting him off his feet before slamming back on the ground violently. Channeling chakra in his right hand while trying to convert it into the wind-natured Naruto lunged back at the army of clones. He had taken more than 200 out. His jacket was shredded to pieces. He was out of weapons as it was leaving behind 2 of weapon pouches back at the house. He tried to attack directly with the wind chakra. Kakashi-sensei had told him that wind chakra gives incredible cutting power to weapons. Hoping that same would happen with his fist, he drove it through the ranks of clones. As his onslaught ended, he was the only one standing, his body full of scrapes and bruises. The blue glow in his arm faded. His attack was a success, a deep gash, and the boulder bore witness to the strength of the attack. Naruto tried to grin as his legs gave out beneath him. Page break. Even before he opened his eyes, something in him alerted him. Naruto snapped straight while his hand reached ahead to grab the offender. Gah! Arg! The scream in a young voice quickly alerted Naruto of his situation. His hand was grabbing the neck of a girl no older than he. Sorry, I really didn't mean to hurt you. Are you all right? Naruto spoke in a breath, panicking hard. Yeah, I am, but you really have good reflexes there. The girl spoke, massaging her throat. Naruto looked sheepish. Well, thank you, but I really shouldn't have lashed out blindly like that. I'm sorry, he said. That's all right, I forgive you, but tell me, are you a ninja? Yes, I am Naruto Uzumaki, and I will be the best ninja the world, believe it. The girl grinned at the energetic blonde before replying. Nice knowing you, Naruto-kun. My name is Haku Yuki. So what are you doing here this early? Naruto asked. It was surprising to see a civilian at the crack of dawn. I am here to gather some herbs. They have strong medicinal properties, but I can't seem to find them. You mean there are herbs that can actually cure people? That are so cool. Naruto's childish nature reared its head to make an entrance as the girl smiled at her enthusiasm. I told you what I was doing here, but you still didn't tell me. What were you doing here? Haku asked in a gentle voice. Naruto would have been suspicious of that girl had he been a little bit more mature. But being the way he was, he simply felt glad to make a new friend. I was training. I need to get strong, he replied innocently. Haku's eyes twitched for a fraction of a moment. The area around her was full of craters. While the boy seemed gentle, he was not weak by any means. You seem pretty strong as it is, Naruto-kun, she said, this time a lot at ease with the boy. Naruto blushed hard. A pretty girl just complimented him, and that was definitely a new thing to the blonde teenager. Add to the fact that he only gained a bit of crush on that girl only made him blush redder. If you say so, Haku-chan, he replied, his hand scratching the back of his head in a shy manner. I'm not a girl, you know that, right? Haku replied in a cool tone, while inwardly enjoying the facial expression on Naruto. Naruto seemed to gape like a goldfish for a while. It was seriously yucky having crush on a boy when you're a boy yourself. Bullshit, it's impossible. Naruto finally managed to speak. No boys are that pretty. Now this was time for Haku to blush. You really think I am pretty? She asked, this time in a totally feminine voice. Hell yeah. Naruto responded, finally relieved to find Haku a girl that protector's pride. Summary. Naruto Uzumaki fought to save his precious people from harm, but he took things seriously very late. This is what happens when the death of one of his precious persons instigate the change in him earlier. This will be an O, but will follow canon pretty closely. Pairings undecided as of yet. I don't own the series. This story may have some similarities with other stories with same theme, but occurrence of that is purely coincidental. Releasing the demon. The next few days were some of the best days in Naruto's life. He had improved in his training, while the new attack he devised couldn't be used until he mastered elemental manipulation. He had learned a new C-rank wind technique, a really powerful and offensive one. But most of all, his meeting with Haku made it more enjoyable to him. Naruto was well aware of the crush he harbored for the black-haired beauty, but never managed to tell her about it. Instead, he simply basked in the friendship, found his happiness again and again. Sitting against the roof of Tezuna's house, Naruto let out a sigh. Our training in stealth is almost done. Maybe in 1 or 2 days, I have to leave Wave. I wish I could meet Haku-chan even after this. Absent-mindedly gazing at the stars, overhead Naruto tried to imagine what life would feel like once there will be no Gato in Wave. Kakashi stood with Kurenai going over all the details they have found. The base of Gato was well fortified, but nothing that would bother the Jounins. Still, Kakashi could not shake off his sense of dread, thinking fast for an effective way to solution. I have to cover every single base if I intend to strike a decisive one. That means both me and Sasuke will have to guard the bridge builder. More shinobi may come for Tezuna's family, but who can I spare? Kurenai and Hyuga and Haruno along with Ino will be best for infiltrating and destroying the bases. So I have only Kiba and Naruto with me. And one of them must go with Kurenai in case there is melee combat, taking the brunt of the thugs. Cursing mentally for not having an accurate plan, Kakashi decided to leave Naruto in the house, hoping that he might be able to provide assistance to both sides and deal with any threat coming at him. The next morning was followed with a hint of urgency. The war path had begun. Kakashi and Sasuke, both of them gifted with Sharingan. Kurenai was with the girls and Kiba, while Naruto stayed back to protect the family. He stood at the door and saw the rest of the Konoha shinobi leave with their senseis. His jaw hardened. Naruto knew exactly what was at stake if he failed. His hand reached ahead to touch the communication device attached with his ear. I will not let you down, sensei, he swore in his mind. Pushing chakra in his legs, Naruto jumped up on the top of a tree. Keeping his eyes peeled and senses widened enough, Naruto quickly summoned 10 clones. All of them, as if following some unspoken command, transformed into various inanimate objects scattered around the area, while Naruto himself stood atop the tree. He had laid his trap. Now it was only the waiting game to be played. With Ino. Ino was nervous, but thankfully she was not the only one. All of the Genins were nervous and rather jumpy. Taking a deep breath, Ino tried to relax. Panicking would do no good here. Plus, it is the first of these kinds of missions I am taking. It's only natural to feel scared, she tried to reason. Besides her, the Hyuga princess had her fist clenched and her Byakugan blazing, scouting ahead. Kurenai sensei and Sakura took the rear, while Kiba was in front. Sensei, there's a lone thug ahead, Hinata suddenly called with a faint whisper. Kurenai nodded and signaled for Ino to move in. This was just as they planned. Ino thought as her hands moved in to her familiar seal, mind-body switching jutsu. A moment later, the thug entered the seedy-looking pub he was aiming for. Really trying hard not to show the feeling of discomfort, Ino went on to seat in a table at the corner. Now it's all the waiting game. Moments passed as Ino would have started fidgeting, but thankfully, just then a big burly man decided to break the silence. Everyone be prepared, orders from Gato has come. We are to meet him near the harbor. They are all going to attack today. Ino spoke, her face devoid of color. However, she relaxed once she saw the grim satisfaction on Kurenai sensei's face. It just makes it easier for us. Where are they going to meet? She asked, her body language calm and calculated, yet resembling a predator. The man in the pub said they will regroup at the harbor. Ino supplied from her memory. Like arrows released from bow, they set off once more. While they could just take them all out now, it was also a race against the time. Ino tried to crush her nervousness as she pumped chakra to her legs, drawing herself in level with the person she considered her best friend and a fierce rival. Hey, Bill Boardbrow. Feeling scared? You wish, Ino pig. Their words held no venom, simply a way to ease the nervousness they both felt. Ino had to halt suddenly as Kurenai raised her hand, signaling them to stop. Once the thugs gather here, I will use Genjutsu on them to disorient them. I want you to take them down. Kill if you want, if not, aim to disable permanently. Kurenai whispered her order while the Genins nodded. Gulping down the fear that threatened to overwhelm her, Ino also nodded. Her hand tightly gripping the kunai, Ino tried to take calming breaths. With Kakashi. As Kakashi and Sasuke neared the bridge with Tizuna trailing behind, a strong stench of dried blood hit Kakashi's nose. So it really ends today. The muscles of his body tightened. It was a fight he will have to take seriously. His senses alerted him of the chakra mixed with the mist, another from the bloody mist. A shadow clone appeared right beside him without any hand seal. Leaving the old man behind, Kakashi and Sasuke sped ahead. Nearly the center of the bridge, two figures stood side by side. Zabuza, how the hell? Kakashi couldn't really believe his eyes, but there was no mistaking the demon of the bloody mist. Surprised to see me, Zabuza's taunting voice came. You see, just like you have your pesky students, I also have my tool. The meaning became clear to Kakashi at once. It was the hunter ninja from Mist, or rather the fake hunter ninja. His right hand reached ahead and pushed the headband up, revealing a red eye with 3 black tomo. So revealing Sharingan right off the bat. I guess I should be honored. Zabuza mocked, lifting the large cleaver off his back almost effortlessly, creating half a dozen water clones. Look there, the boy is trembling in fear. He mocked again, but a fierce snarl crossed Sasuke's face this time as he blurred from the space. He was in his kunai, held in reverse grip. A moment later, the 6 water clones exploded back in water as Sasuke returned to stand by his sensei, Sharingan blazing in his eyes. 2 sets of that damned eye. This fight will be interesting. Especially when my tool shall crush your petty brat. Zabuza chuckled before the mist once again covered the area, and the masked hunter Nin dashed to meet Sasuke in the midway. Kakashi wanted to help his student, but knew Zabuza had to be dealt first. From the corner of his eye, he saw a movement. Quickly raising his own kunai, Kakashi blocked the huge sword. The impact was enough to push him a foot back. Gritting his teeth behind the mask, Kakashi channeled lightning chakra in his hand, cutting deep in the behemoth of a blade. Zabuza jumped back to prevent further damage to his sword, his hands already moving through the seals in a rapid pace. But Kakashi was called Copy Ninja for a reason, as he quickly caught up to the point, and together the 2 voices called out, Water Release, Giant Water Crash. 2 huge tidal waves rose before colliding with each other momentarily, blinding everyone save the 2 Jujutsu user. Kakashi rushed in his kunai, once again glowing with lightning chakra. But Zabuza dodged at the last moment, his left foot rising up to kick Kakashi. Silently absorbing the powerful kick, Kakashi retreated once more. The mist thickened, even more cautious about making any noise. Kakashi tried to widen his senses. Even though his kunai failed to cut the place it intended, there was still a shallow gash in his biceps, and blood flowed from there. Closing his eyes, once more Kakashi tried to filter the different senses of blood around. Bingo, his left hand armed with the kunai went ahead to block the haze of sword attacks Zabuza launched. The moment he felt the blood moving further, his right hand drove in his backpack to pull out a scroll. He flicked the scroll open at his feet before swiping the blood from his kunai. Zabuza felt an unknown horror in his heart as Kakashi countered his every move almost effortlessly. So this is the power of the Sharingan. It is really frightening. He failed to notice the small cut in his right bicep, still dropping blood. He wasn't sure if he would survive this day, but one thing he knew, that his dream to free the mist was a dream worth dying for. He tensed for a moment as he felt a large amount of chakra being utilized near him before he dashed to the spot, his trusty blade already in mid-swing, but this time fate was against him. The ground beneath his feet and a pack of ninja dogs leapt up. Kakashi was confident of his victory. No one could outrun his ninja dogs, especially when they were blinded by the mist. The said mist was clearing by then as the residual chakra ran out. But his good mood didn't last for long as he felt in new trouble. The air seemed to saturate with the terrible blood lust from the 9-tailed fox. Quickly turning back, Kakashi's eyes widened as ice covered the entire area. A huge ice dragon swirled the sky, and the limp body of the last Uchiha lay on the ground. Standing by that body covered in what seemed to be armor made of orange fire was Naruto. Zabuza cursed aloud as he felt the vile chakra. Shit, Haku, run from here. He shouted aloud, using a last attempt to save his apprentice, but his voice was drowned in a loud, chirping noise of birds started. Zabuza's eyes widened in fear as he beheld the technique Kakashi was now using. Lightning seemed to condense in his palm, creating a blade of pure thunder. A few tendrils shot out in an arc, cutting through the hard rocks and steel like they didn't even exist. Kakashi knew he had to end Zabuza now and then stop Naruto from getting berserk. His clone had already moved in to stop him, but so far Naruto's only concentration seemed to be directed at the masked enemy. He gathered his chakra for the killing strike. Lightning chakra flowed to the palm of his hand, creating a sphere of pure electricity covering his hand, increasing the piercing power to cut through lightning. Behold my greatest attack, Zabuza, and die knowing that you died by my own jutsu. He must force Naruto back in control, and with his Sharingan the task just might be done. 15 minutes earlier with Naruto. Naruto was getting bored. A lot of time had passed, but no one showed up. But suddenly he heard some rowdy voice gaining closer. Peeping out of his hiding place, Naruto spotted two samurai in dark red armor heading towards the house. He sent a silent signal to his clones and waited as soon as the duo crossed the boundary and stepped into the courtyard the trap sprung. Grinning as the samurai duo failed to notice his clones sneaking up, Naruto dropped in front of them. What do you want? He tried to sound intimidating and to some extent succeeded. The samurai were startled to see a shinobi. They didn't expect any opponent as such, but thankfully the shinobi was only a midget. Listen, kid, get the hell away from here or we will chop you to pieces. The taller and leaner thug growled, his left hand grasping the hilt of his katana tightly. Naruto only smirked and jumped at the samurai, his kunai already in hand. Even before the speaker realized he was taken out as a kunai embedded in his chest from the behind. The person collapsed without any more sound, but things got complicated as the other samurai quickly turned around and with a swipe of his blade cut both the kunai and the clone. Naruto was already lunging at him when the samurai turned back and with a swipe of his katana forced Naruto to dodge. Growling slightly, Naruto quickly summoned 6 more clones and clashed with the opponent again. This time the samurai was pushed to the back feet as 7 opponents attacked him in tandem, always going for the blind spot. He was sporting shallow wounds all around his body. One of his eyes were blocked by a nasty wound. I can't win it, he realized as he stumbled back in his weariness. Doing the only thing that was wise in that situation, he dropped his katana before yelling, I surrender. Naruto stopped, a tiny smirk forming in his features. Quickly binding the guy tightly to a tree, he went inside the house. But suddenly a voice spoke through his earphone. Oi, Naruto, Gato has already sent shinobi at the bridge. Kakashi-sensei might need some backup. Naruto froze for a moment before quickly creating a clone and ordering it to evacuate Inari and Tsunami. He took to the trees, pumping chakra through his legs as he rapidly crossed the distance. He could see the huge bridge at some distance, and surprisingly some strange kind of dome what reflected light onto it. Grinding his teeth in frustration, Naruto channeled chakra in his feet and jumped straight onto the bridge. His jaw dropped as he saw the sight. Before him, 13 mirrors made of ice created a dome, and inside the dome was Sasuke, badly out of breath. Surprisingly, Kakashi stood a few feet behind him, a scared Tazuna beside him. Sensei, why aren't you helping him? Naruto hissed at his masked teacher, tone dripping with venom. Because I'm only a clone and my original is fighting Zabuza, I cannot leave Tazuna unguarded. Kakashi replied, his tone repentant. Naruto felt bad about accusing his sensei. Now, Zabuza was a very powerful shinobi. It still chilled him in his spine as the fight flashed before his eyes. I'm going, the bastard seems to be out of breath, Naruto announced before Kakashi's gripped his arm. These ice mirrors are chakra hardened. Use the maximum firepower available. Nodding in response, Naruto quickly pulled out his bunch of exploding tags and wrapped them around kunais. This should be enough, Naruto cried, before quickly throwing the kunais one after another at the mirror. But what none of them expected was the masked stranger appearing at the back of the mirror and in quick succession avert the kunais one by one. Tazuna had to gulp once he saw the damage the fight was doing to his bridge. However, thankfully for the old bridge builder, Naruto stopped using the exploding tags after that futile attempt. Instead, he quickly made a cross-shaped hand seal, and a cloud of smoke engulfed him. This time, there were shurikens flying at the ice mirrors from 4 different angles. However, the masked opponent was way too fast for Naruto's calculation, as all of the shurikens were once again deflected, all except one. One of the shurikens was slightly off target, as such it just got stuck to the ground inside the dome. At once, a great deal of ice daggers flew towards the 4 Narutos, striking them and dispelling them all. For a moment, the opponent felt shocked when the shuriken inside the wall transformed into the blonde shinobi, before he once again launched a huge number of ice senbon to the 2 Konoha shinobi. Naruto quickly gathered chakra in hands before thrusting them out. Sasuke now, wind style, gale palm. The last Uchiha quickly threw a number of shurikens. The metal projectile's speed was nearly quadrupled by the wind, propelling thus vastly increasing the momentum. The ice senbons were no match for the shurikens, now all of them hitting and cutting deep in the mirrors. That was a nice move from 2 amateurs, the masked adversary commented idly as he nimbly danced among the rain of metal. But can you stop something like this? Ice style, 10,000 frozen needles. An image of the boy appeared in every mirror, effectively covering them from everywhere. Sasuke, stay close to me and duck. Mash shadow clone jutsu. Naruto yelled, releasing a smoke cloud. Thousands of solid clones of the blonde shinobi appeared, creating a dome protecting the 2 within from the deadly rain of ice senbons. As the smoke cleared, a huge demonic claw of fire went flying from within the smoke, colliding with 2 mirrors. There was a large explosion and a sound of breaking. The dust cloud settled to reveal Naruto and Sasuke panting while their opponent stood straight, his clothes charred from the intense heat, but otherwise seemingly fine. That was a good combo, dope. Sasuke was the first one to break the stretching silence. The blonde in question simply grinned. But this slight lack of attention created from their inexperience proved to be fatal, as that instant a large dragon made of water charged at the panting blonde. Naruto's eyes widened. He knew he should dodge, but fear numbed his body, and he could do no more but stand as 2 large jaws came closer to tear him apart. He closed his eyes. I am sorry, Iruka and San, but I have let you down. But once more his fate proved different, as a hard push shoved him out of the line of danger. Naruto could only watch in horror as the large dragon knocked back the last Uchiha. Sasuke! The scream came almost involuntarily, and with it came a fierce hatred and a burning anger. Rage strong enough to burn the entire world to ashes yet continue. Rip, kill, burn, avenge. An ancient voice filled with power and rage sounded deep within the chest of Naruto Uzumaki. At the same instant, orange chakra exploded out of his body. It was covering him, twisting around him, forming a burning cloak. Tazuna was flattened with the ground. Simply from the pressure beside him, the clone blasted into smoke. Protector's pride. Summary: Naruto Uzumaki fought to save his precious people from harm, but he took things seriously very late. This is what happens when the death of one of his precious persons instigate the change in him earlier. This will be an O, but will follow canon pretty closely, pairings undecided as of yet. I don't own the series. This story may have some similarities with other stories with same theme, but occurrence of that is purely coincidental. The Beast Within. The shadow clone assigned to protect Tazuna quickly vanished in a body flicker. Appearing close to now cubified Naruto, he quickly made a string of hand seals before slamming both of his hands on the ground, calling out, Earth style, mud wall cage. For walls of solid earth rose from the ground, surrounding the boy trapped within. But a spurt of red chakra and the walls shattered like they weren't even there. his blood-red eyes fixed on the masked opponent who struck down Sasuke. But the opponent wasn't sitting duck for the time interval. He finished his string of hand seals, and water dragon revolving above his head froze into a dragon made of solid ice. For a blink of an eye, no one moved. Then, like following some unseen signal, both combatants vanished from their spots. Dashing straight at the killer of his friend, Naruto didn't even flinch when a frozen dragon collided with him. He tore the giant ice structure without losing his momentum, landing a solid blow in the stomach of the rogue ninja. Kakashi was flabbergasted to see the force behind the punch. The boy was thrown far back like a rag doll. The masked person could feel his rib cages shatter from that impact. Blood was pooling in his mouth, even breathing seemed painful. He tried to sit up, but that thought died in his head as he felt a burning arm clasp his shoulders. He tried to scream, but no sound came out of his mouth. The claws-like hands were drawing blood from his shoulders. A hand tore apart the mask covering his identity. Haku waited for the boy. She was feeling attracted to deliver the killing blow. Naruto felt a haze cloud his mind and addle his judgments. The only thought that existed was to exert vengeance. But that haze cleared as soon as he saw the face of Haku. Haku, why? Why did you kill him? Tears were streaming down his face. The fist cocked to deliver the final punch crashed down on the ground beside. Naruto knew he should kill her. It doesn't matter who it was in a fight, but he couldn't do it. Haku felt the grip lessen around her body. She was sorry for the pain she inflicted on the boy, but she had no other option. Because Zabuza-sama wanted me to make sure that none of you get into his way. She spoke, coughing. A large amount of blood splattered the front of Naruto's jacket. Haku could clearly see the bright tears shining in her friend's eyes, and an unknown warm feeling contained her heart. She knew she wouldn't last much longer, but still it felt good to know she was wanted. It was then they heard Zabuza scream for Haku and a loud chirping of birds. Haku could barely see her master in the distance. Her eyes were already getting fogged, but she knew her master was in danger. She tried to pull her chakra, but for the first time in years, her chakra failed to obey, watched in morbid fascination and horror as the fist encased by lightning tore through Zabuza's body. It was the exact same moment when Haku's body gave out as well. Naruto didn't quite believe his eyes as he saw the power of his sensei from up close. So, this is what it means to be elite. Then I will become like this. A silent promise tightened his muscles. But suddenly he noticed that warm body he held in his arms had gone rigid. Another scream filled with grief tore through skies above, even as snowflakes started falling around them. Kakashi deactivated his jutsu as Zabuza finished his last request. Promise me this copy ninja, you will save Mist from the blood war, tearing it out. He wondered whether the ones titled monsters were really like this, simply a warrior fighting for his dream. A message hit his mind as he felt his shadow clone dispel. As it turned out, Sasuke was alright, but he will have a concussion and is severely low on chakra. But Kakashi knew that the Uchiha could wait, as Kurenai and her team was on their way ETA 4 minutes. Going quietly to stand by the sobbing blonde boy, Kakashi wondered what he was going to tell him. While Naruto had killed before, this one was someone he cared for, and that made the killing at least 100 times tougher. Deciding to stay away from the topic, Kakashi took a deep breath before he called out to his distraught student. Naruto, Sasuke lives while he is unconscious. His wounds are not life-threatening. To his satisfaction, the boy seemed to brighten up, but Kakashi had one more thing to do. But before you see him, I want you lift your shirt and channel chakra to your body. He instructed. Naruto seemed confused. But sensei, I'm not hurt. Kakashi sighed inwardly before he explained the necessity to check on the seal containing the fox. Naruto grimaced. He hated to be reminded of his fate, and horrible feeling of bloodlust only increased his feeling of self-loathing. Still, he quickly obeyed the order without further question. Kakashi quickly scanned the intricate sealing masterpiece that the fourth Hokage had created. While his proficiency with sealing was nowhere near as well as his sensei's or Jiraiya of the sages, he was quite adept at the seal crafting, and he could easily see that the seal was still as tight as ever. He looked up to the troubling face of his blonde student, signaling him to drop the jacket down to cover his body. From the look of Naruto's face, it was evident he was in desperate need of assistance, but the arrival of Kurenai and her group stopped Kakashi from speaking. The day passed over in hurry in between the mission briefing and the treatment for Sasuke. Kakashi sighed as he saw the last legacy of his sensei drown himself in despair. He slowly made his way to the sad child. The life of ninja is never easy, Naruto. The world will give you more pain than you have ever known, and then some more. What you did today was something very few have to go through, but I believe in you. Kakashi saw the blonde boy forcefully stifle a sob. Good, at least he is responding. He sat gently beside Naruto. Let it out. Sometimes it's all right for a ninja to cry, he said, using words his sensei told him a long time ago. As Kakashi sat there under the star-filled sky, giving company to one of the loneliest souls in the Leaf Village, he could not help but wonder if this was karma, giving him a chance to repay the debts. But he was proud of his team. All of them showed exceptional skills for a greenhorn genin. Now that Sasuke had unlocked his Sharingan, he could teach the boy even more, but the problem was Naruto. Wind was the element he was least versed in. Perhaps he could ask Asuma for help, but still his pride stopped him. Naruto was his responsibility, and he would train him. He watched as the blonde boy in concern was watching the skies with a renewed determination. This boy never ceased amazing him in his Umbu days. He had watched over the boy many times before finally leaving the course 6 years ago. And he knew just how much this boy can tolerate without question or complaints, but that was not what surprised him. He was surprised by the boy's resilience. He remembered how much he himself was affected by the death of his sensei, but Naruto recovered from the grief of losing Iruka, emerging as more mature and skillful than ever. Kakashi could only pray that this death would give much more maturity and ability to see the blood-stained world as it truly is. The bridge was completed less than a week later, and the two teams from Konoha were starting on their homeward journey. This mission was enlightening for each and every single genin that came. Almost all of them drew their first blood in their mission to Wave. It was an incident that would certainly bring huge change in their psychologies, and all they could hope for was it wouldn't do some irreparable damage. Naruto walked away from the place he met with Haku for the few days, yet it seemed like he was leaving a part of him in this tiny island country. He could recall every single word they talked about, every single laugh they shared together, but most vividly, he could recall the smell of blood as her lifeless husk lay in his arms, killed by his own rage. No, I must not dwell on the memories. It all happened because I relied on the QB because I wasn't strong enough. This is the fourth life precious to me that I lost because of the damned fox. I refused to let that giant furball claim more of my precious persons. Filled with new determination, the boy left the place to meet with the rest of his team. The homebound journey was peaceful, both Kiba and Naruto boisterously competing with each other, while Sakura and Ino competed to win the heart of the last Uchiha. Kurenai and Hinata chatted, while Kakashi emerged in his smut-filled book. Page break. A week had passed since the completion of that mission, and currently Hiruzen Sarutobi, the reinstated third Hokage of Leaf, was trying to keep his wits about him. Despite their best attempts, Danzo Shimura had still managed to find out enough to pester him again. I have already told you many times, Shimura, I will not hand over Naruto to you. Hiruzen stated coldly. His tone made it clear that he had no patience to debate this decision. But Shimura Danzo is not someone who can be threatened that easily. Once the prize student of Nidaime Hokage, Danzo was the only one in Konoha who could stalemate the third Hokage, but as the third war dealt grievous wounds to his body. Now he had to walk with the support of a cane, while his I was covered by bandages. Jinin Uzumaki is not some other ninja that we can spare. He carries a power that dwarfs the entire shinobi forces of Leaf, and not to harness that power is pure and utter foolishness. A Jinchuriki is a weapon of mass destruction. Do I have to remind you that only the Saiyans could defeat the might of four-tailed monkey in that fight with Hidden Rock? His voice was cold, his words contained hard facts, but yet Hiruzen was not swayed. Naruto shall be trained in using Kyuubi's chakra, I assure you that, but not from you. And remember this, you old war hawk. Naruto is not our weapon. He is our comrade. Hiruzen was beyond pissed. Now, he hated accepting the cold, hard facts that Danzu kept sprouting, but even he couldn't deny it. Konoha had grown weak with its best shinobis dead or scattered in the wind, and war was brewing. He could feel it in his very bones. Konoha would need the power of the strongest-tailed beast by its side. The week-long rest period that Team 7 was given ended today, and once again the three Genins were waiting for their eternally tardy sensei to finally show up. Ino was the first to break the silence. I wonder why we even bother showing up early. Kakashi-sensei is always late. Geez, the man is worse than Shikamaru. Naruto grinned at her comment. Nashika is far worse. But still, I really want to see if he gets here in time, at least one day. A grunt from the opposite side of bridge was the affirmative they got from their third member. Sasuke's mind was a jumble for a moment. The pain of losing his family had subsided, given way to the carefree attitude of Team 7. But following his defeat by the hands of Haku, he was getting broodier than ever. That defeat made him realize how far he was from his ultimate goal. If only I had some stronger fire jutsu, maybe I could break away from the ice prison faster. But he was broken from his musings by the telltale smoke cloud appearing in midst of them. Holding his orange book in hand, Kakashi strove out without a care for the world. The Genins quickly snapped into attention. Without raising his head from the book, Kakashi idly spoke. Today you guys are doing survival training. Your objective is to survive until the sunset. Naruto was the first to vocalize the question all three were facing. Sensei, just what kind of survival training are we doing here? A creepy eye smile was the answer the Genins got before a powerful kick hit Naruto in the abdomen, while the other two managed to get their arms in a cross guard to block the punches Kakashi sent at them in rapid succession. Dropping down to the stream below, Naruto quickly formed his favorite hand seal before calling out, Shadow Clone Jutsu. 10 clones quickly appeared beside him. Pulling out a kunai to arm themselves, the replicas quickly rushed ahead to charge Kakashi. Kakashi quickly dodged the first few slashes the clones sent at him before quickly grabbing the hold of an outstretched arm, using it to block the attacks before going into offensive himself. Even before Naruto could formulate a plan for what to do, he saw his clones getting dispelled. Kakashi dropped down on the water, but a large fireball collided on the spot just in front of him, creating a lot of smoke blurring the person behind. Naruto took the distraction as a chance to retreat, quickly regrouping with Sasuke and Ino as they stood at the edge of the forest. Dobe, create a few clones we need to hide if we plan to survive till sunset. Sasuke's voice was not betraying his emotions, his Sharingan already active. Naruto complied at once, making a dozen clones. The clones quickly disguised themselves as the team before setting out in 4 different directions. Ino's mind was already reeling. She knew in direct combat, she will be of no help to the boys. Also, the only reason they could talk freely like this because Kakashi-sensei was giving them the time to plan accordingly, but then that didn't seem to be the training goal they had been set today. Her mind clicked at once as she realized the implication of it meant. Boys, it's a trap, she hissed, trying to keep her voice down. At the same instant, Naruto was hit with some strange memories. Memories of his own death flashed through his mind. Stumbling slightly at the oddness of the fact, he tried to pull his attention once again to the fight at hand. But that momentary lack of attention was all that needed as shuriken after shuriken began raining on them. To the forest now, Sasuke yelled before pumping chakra through his muscles, and at the instant the entire group setting off. Once inside the deep of the forest, they paused, balancing themselves on the thick branch. We can't fight him head-on and survive, we need to hide, but at the same time, we need some sort of diversion to take him off our backs. Ino spoke, her face shining with newfound confidence. Naruto, she continued, how many clones can you make successfully? Around 1,000, the said blonde answered. His mind tried to figure out the route this plan was taking. Send around 50 a time. It should keep him busy for a while. Ino commanded. Naruto nodded in response. In the following 4 hours till sunset, Team 7 went through the toughest training exercise of them all. They had to muster all their resources to outrun Kakashi, who had taken offensive this time. As they sat by the training stumps bruised and tired in front of Sensei, who looked surprisingly unhurt and in a very good mood. Although years of practice hid it well, Kakashi was tired as well. After all, dealing against the combined form of wind and fire chakra is not easy. It was now time for the evaluation, and the particular part Kakashi was looking forward to. Hiding his smirk in his ever-present mask, Kakashi rounded up on the smallest person of the group. Naruto quickly swallowed a lump in his throat as his sensei's lone eye fixed on him. Tell me, Naruto, why exactly were you standing still when you sent out the first batch of clones back on the bridge? Then do you think Henge manipulates your smell to be of your targets? All Naruto could do was to lower his head. The points Kakashi-sensei mentioned were valid and ones he completely overlooked. But by then, Kakashi had moved on to Sasuke quickly and effectively, reminding him that having a power means nothing if you cannot use it. The evaluation process continued for 5 minutes, and by then all 3 members of Team 7 had a varying range of disappointment and anger. Kakashi chuckled merrily in his mind as he saw the children acting like children. He could perfectly recall the fun Minato-sensei used to have at their expenses, and now had been payback time. Quickly ending the trip down the memory lane, Kakashi focused on the business again. While all of you made some mistake, I must commend you on your teamwork. All 3 of you successfully dispelled the shadow clone of mine. However, Sasuke and Naruto used that combination of your fire and wind style attacks only when it's absolutely necessary, because the destruction your attack caused in Wave is not something I hope would occur here. Watching the faces gaining color quickly, he added, as if an afterthought, and today I'm going to recommend you guys in the Chunin exams, so don't forget to work hard. And with a tiny puff of smoke, he disappeared. From their sitting position on the ground, the Genins now sported a big smile on their faces. Naruto, as usual, was the first to break silence. Anyone up for a group dinner at Ichiraku's? HN, came a non-committal grunt from the ever-expressive Uchiha, while Ino nodded. Then see you after 1 hour, Naruto said before picking himself up from the ground. Carrying him slowly towards the rundown apartment, he called home. An odd-looking wall quickly caught his eye. Sighing slightly, Naruto moved closer before bonking his fist on the kid, trying to stay concealed. That was awesome, and I saying just what I expect from my rival. You were the best. Konohamaru shouted enthusiastically, one hand still rubbing the swelling Naruto just gave. Naruto gave a bright smile to his self-proclaimed rival as the young boy skipped beside him in excitement. Trust old Konohamaru to lift my mood, Naruto thought silently, even as the boy continued his glorified tales of pranking the babysitter. Naruto had to pity the poor soul. Brat, I need to go now, so no playing ninja today, but I promise I will join you in the weekends. He called out finally as the time was passing and he needed to have a bathe badly. Naruto walked on the streets, whistling a merry tune, wearing only a white t-shirt with a swirl-like symbol in his back. No sooner had he smelt the delicious smell of ramen coming from his destination, the walk turned into a full-blown run. Hey, old man, 3 large bowls of pork ramen, he called out even before entering through the flap guarding the stall. One calm voice calling him idiot was what greeted him. Sasuke had been first to arrive, and due to the crushing training they did earlier, decided to eat something first. He was half finished of the medium bowl he had asked for when that dobe interrupted. Naruto quickly sent a glare at the raven-haired boy before flashing a grin at the kind-hearted family who ran the shop. I am the daughter of Tucci, the ramen chef, came out of the kitchen. Her face broke into a large smile as she saw the grinning face of her best customer. Hello, Naruto-kun, I was wondering when you would come in. After all, today you seem pretty late. Please wait, Dad is already making your order. Naruto simply nodded his head as he started chatting with I.M. happily. That was how Ino found her teammates. Good evening, Sasuke-kun, Naruto, she greeted energetically. Sasuke, as usual, ignored the greeting, while Naruto replied with a hi before resuming his chatting with the bartender. 3 big bowls of pork coming right up, called Tucci from kitchen before appearing at the counter with a tray full of ramen bowls. Naruto, did you order for us as well? Ino asked suspiciously, eyeing the size of the bowls. What she didn't expect was the bout of guffawing that followed her comment. Gaining her breathing under control, Ayam decided to clear up the confusion. No, actually this is just the beginning of what he will eat alone. By the way, you two are in team with the brat, right? Tucci asked. It wasn't every day. He gained customers who were friends with the village pariah, with the exception of Hokage, and after the death of Irika, the number was non-existent. Yeah, we formed the Team 7, said Ino. I am Ino Yamanka, by the way. Sasuke Uchiha was a monosyllable answer from the Uchiha, who was looking over the menu. Naruto, you never said anything about your mission to Wave. Tucci asked. He had been troubled by the boy's reluctance to speak anything in this matter. With the loss of Irika, Tucci had taken the responsibility of the young boy on his shoulder. After all, not many people knew about the loan he had taken from the resident Uzumaki about 16 years ago. It was his way to repay the debt. He had hoped with his team, mates present Naruto might finally tell what was bothering him, but he presumed wrongly as Naruto shut up tighter than a clamp. It was as if the temperature around the stall dropped by a few degrees at that instant. Quickly draining his bowls, Naruto put the money on the counter before yelling, "Got to go see you guys later." Dumbfounded Tucci could only say, "What did I just say?" Page break. Somewhere near the border of Konoha, a man stumbled against a big tree, his cloak in tatters around him. As moonlight shone upon him, dried blood glistened like black rubies. He was out of chakra, and soon his pursuers will find him. His only chance of survival lay within reaching the leaf. It has been 2 days he is running straight, defending himself against the opposition. Just by sheer determination, he stumbled into the forest covering the entirety of Konoha. 1, 2, 3, even the steps seemed to be too much for him as he moved closer. Hoping desperately that Leaf Shinobi will not skewer him at the mere sight. Even his second chakra source seemed to be silent. Damn it, I can't falter here. Konoha is just around the corner. He screamed in his mind.